What a finish! What a man! The drum roll finishes, and the target is
and it comes on finals night, and it's a knockout.
Dirty Harrison!
Yeah, we will.
He doesn't need the bullseye. He needs to look more
Double eight. That's not good. That's exceptional.
Oh, we're being treated. Hello, welcome along to your second dose of darting action from the MODUS Super Series, exclusively live on Pluto TV. This evening is all about Group B and how the action there is going to get underway. Very much trendy here at the Live Lounge in Portsmouth, and Paul Nichols has kept up with the trend of darts pundits wearing the nice white trainers. Nico, great to be in your company this evening. He's going to kill me in a minute. Let's talk about tonight's action in Group B. And I suppose, first and foremost, we have to talk about Lee Cox and how he's going to get over his disappointments in Group A.
Yeah, I think it's a big talking topic tonight. I think maybe the first couple of games will tell us how Lee is feeling. I had a quick chat with him yesterday after everything was said and done. He was outside the venue and he looked a little bit disconsolate, but maybe a couple of minutes just to give him some perspective has allowed him to maybe use last night to move on and to use the rest of today just to get ready for this challenge.
In terms of Carl Sneyd, he's going to go into it as one of the big favourites tonight. Won a first Challenge Tour title earlier this year, had a decent run at Q School. He's a player that's knocked on the door, but has he perhaps at the beginning of this month gone to a level that perhaps we didn't expect him to get to just yet?
I think maybe the sign that Carl could do something good came at the end of last year when he was winning a Group A situation here. So doing something new here, taking it elsewhere and doing something new elsewhere as well just goes to show the form that Carl is in. It's very welcomed. We know that the talent is there, but in previous times, he struggled to make Saturdays, and I think he's starting to do more good things than ever.
So from a star from Lancashire to a player that is starring all the way over from the United States of America, Gary Mawson's making his debut here at the Super Series. The runner-up at the UK Open back in 2008 has won 2 CDC titles, but you have a look at that, 21 major appearances between 1995 and 2011, including 17 appearances combined at the World Championship, at the World Match Play. This is a player that has done serious things in his career.
Yeah, I think when you consider where we are right now, we sometimes take for granted the players in the mid-90s when the PDC darts wasn't as fashionable. It was seen as a product that was trying to build. We needed to have people in that structure to be able to give us full tournaments, people who would qualify, they would fly the flag for their country and contend. And Gary was a big part of that, making consecutive appearances at the Circus Tavern, consecutive appearances at the World Match Play as well. And that would continue for quite a few years up until that UK Open final and beyond.
Well, let's have a look at the odds then and see what the bookies think about tonight's proceedings. Now, they have Lee Cox out as the 11-8 favourite to go on and win the group. Carl Sneyd's second favourite at 7-4. What's your take on what the bookmakers have said there? And I also want to mention, you said earlier about the joke price for Mashek. What do you make of Mawson at 10s?
Well, I think Gary at 10s is okay at this stage because we want to see how he can do under these lights. So having him as the outsider right now, I think that's fair enough. Let's not forget, Gary's 61 now, and he's by far from finished. But the thing is, there are other people who have got more experience here, so we have to put the microscope on them first. I'm really intrigued by Ronan McDonagh over the next couple of nights because we cannot forget that he got the same amount of points as Lee Cox in Group A. So lots to talk about. Carl Sneyd not being the favourite is a bit of a surprise, but let's move on.
Better get our skates on it. We're ahead of tonight's action here at the Live Lounge. 18 plus, it is gambleaware.org if you're going to have a flutter on the Super Series here. And we are going to kick off with the need for Sneyd here in Group B. Carl Sneyd making his first bow at the Super Series in 2025. Fresh off the back of his first Challenge Tour victory, and he's going to be playing in his first Pro Tour event for Monday morning. Definitely a man filled with confidence, and earlier on this evening, I caught up with him. Well, Carl, the beginning of 2025 has been a very successful one for you. How much are you looking forward to getting your Super Series journey for the year underway tonight?
It's very exciting. I mean, I do love coming down here. It always, it's just something about the lights when you get down here. It just makes it a bit more enjoyable. It's good. I'm looking forward to it.
We'll talk about darts away from here in just a second, but it's felt like the last few times that you've played here at the Live Lounge, you've been incrementally getting better.
I suppose you've got to get used to surroundings, I suppose. And one thing I do like doing is learning. So every time I've come here, I've taken away positives and negatives and tried to work on the negatives, turn them into positives.
Away from here, you had a good Q score, and then the Challenge Tour weekend, you win your first Challenge Tour title. First of all, what was that experience like?
It still hasn't. Honestly, it's not sunk in. It was a bit weird doing it on the first day, and then having to play 2 more days, which didn't really work out, and I couldn't really celebrate it as much as I wanted to. But there's a few people around who I know close who have said, "Come on, you don't know what you've achieved," and it has actually sunk in a little bit.
And now, as a consequence of that, Monday you get to play your first Pro Tour events in Wigan. How much are you looking forward to that experience?
Yeah, this is ridiculous. I mean, coming from playing local leagues round the board, 501, and now you're having time off work to go and play with the big lads. It's just a dream come true. It was the best email I've ever received, I'll be honest with you.
Go well tonight. Good luck.
Thank you very much.
The best email he ever received, he calls his call up to the Pro Tours. We wish him all the very best in them endeavours on Monday and Tuesday in Wigan. And it turns out dreams really can come true at the Robin Park Tennis Centre. But whose darting dreams are going to come true here at the MODUS Live Lounge in Ports over the next few days? Sneyd has made it through to a Saturday. He's looking to do so for a second time. His previous appearance came off the back of a Group A win. The 37-year-old from Oldham, nicknamed the Bomber, playing a homage to his home county of Lancashire. Up against him, Ronan McDonagh, the 23-year-old from Cloven in Northern Ireland, making his debut in this competition. A player who's using this opportunity here at the Super Series as a real springboard to see where his game's at against the best at amateur level, but also where his future is in terms of the sport. A real chance for him to gauge where he's at. Jack Garwood is your referee. He's in charge of all 10 matches tonight. And the asset, Paul Nicholson, is alongside me in commentary this evening for all 10 of the matches that we're bringing to you exclusively live here on Pluto TV. Carl Sneyd throws the first darts of the night. And on the back of winning a Challenge Tour, the expectations now rise for him to throw the last dart of Saturday night.
That's entirely fair. Because a lot of the people that we get here in Portsmouth, if they have Challenge Tour success, we really do expect them to thrive.
41.
For 2 reasons. One, their form is good. And secondly, they're able to win many matches in a row to get that kind of success. And that can transcribe into this very, very well.
Well, you've covered enough Lakesides to know that players that win the big opens are then seen as the big favourites to go on and win that particular competition, even if they're inexperienced on that particular stage. And even though Carl's been here a few times, and I mean this with the greatest of respect to him, he's not been seen in the past as one of the real big hitters. But suddenly, because of what he did last week, his name gets catapulted to a level where it's never been at before.
100.
Well, think about the attention he could get in the next week. We can talk about him winning Group A in the previous series. That in itself is a great achievement, and I have a funny feeling that set him on a really good, confident path.
140. Carly require 106.
But I think there's more. Earlier on today, we were talking about Sam Spivey
54.
from the other side of the country
Ronan, you
to
require
call.
79.
Looking for that next great left-hander. Well,
Game shot
think
of
what you like
first
about a
leg.
79
Ronan
checkout starting on
McDonagh.
treble 13, but if you hit the ball at the end, fair enough. And Ronan McDonagh
Second
has
leg,
done
it's
it
Ronan
in the
to throw
first leg of the night.
Game on.
But think about this. It's Thursday night. It's 10 past 10. Tonight he plays here. Tomorrow he plays
60.
here. He will hope to be playing on Saturday in this building for a weekly title, a first one. Then home on Sunday
140.
and not having to travel that far from home to play at the Robin Park Tennis Centre on Monday and Tuesday. His entire life could
99.
change in the next 5 or 6 days.
And let's not forget, players from that system have had success. There was a Pro Tour last year where 3 of the 4 semi-finalists
140.
were players that played here at the Super Series. Plaisir, Crabtree, Bolton, they all played here and they all got to a
41.
semi-final. I'm not saying that they can go on and win it like Plaisir did, but they can make heavy inroads in those events.
I think we're at the stage now where we can see it's not an accident.
100.
Now, I'm going to tell you something in the next leg. I'm not sure I was ever going to mention it, but I will.
180. Carly require 121.
Both on 121, but Sneyd is there first. And he's on the ball.
96.
He can't
Ronan,
hit
you
what
require
Ronan did.
121.
Now, does Ronan get another crack at it? He does.
96.
Nearly hits it again.
Carly required 25.
An Olympian shirt wafter. That's what Ronan McDonagh is. But he's in a level game.
Second leg, Cole Sneyd.
Now, here's what I'm going to say. I'm not going to tell you who said this to me because I think
Third
that's
leg,
unfair.
it's Cole to throw first.
But I have
Game on.
a little bit of sympathy for the person who said this because I think there's an element of truth. Said source said to me
100.
that they thought dart players on the whole are a little bit lazy.
6.
And what this place has done, it has given a lot of dart players the need, the drive to get out of that little bit of laziness, to get the competitive stuff they need to be who they want to be. He said that, and I've just given it away. It's a he.
100.
They did say this has allowed players to get better. So on days where, on a Monday,
140.
they might stay in bed until 9 o'clock and think, well, I might practice today. If you're here on a Monday, you're out of bed at 6 and you're on the board
45.
by 8. You get what I'm saying?
Well, it's been a real good game. You felt the way that both players play. They play at a decent enough pace, and they're both quite fiery characters on the hockey in the respect that they both like to
47.
give it some gumption when they want to. It's all respectful, but they don't mind letting their emotions out when they need to. I just feel like these two, the way they play the game, will just play into each other's hands. And that's the second max of the match there from Ronan. Sneyd looking at 154. And this is the safe throw. And McDonagh here only needs a treble to give himself a dart and a double here.
40. Ronan, you require 116.
Doesn't get the treble, so Sneyd has a chance
100. Carly require
to get himself in front for the
114.
first time. Doesn't get the treble
58.
So
Ronan, you
McDonagh-
require 16.
to break again.
Game shot
Not a problem.
leg, Ronan McDonagh.
He's doing a couple of things tonight that he's been doing all week.
Fourth flag, it's
But
Ronan
there's one
to throw
thing
first.
he's doing right here,
Game on.
which he hasn't done at all this week. His first game of every session he's played poorly. But that game
96.
has been 10 in the morning, maybe a little bit later. starting out of the gun here
121.
very well against a form player is telling me that Ronan is not a first thing in the morning player.
41.
He's a lot more comfortable playing in the evening.
And it's a trend that we tend to see from players in the Republic of Ireland. Conor Heenahan has done a lot of his special stuff in the evening, the 9 darter, the 115 average. In fact, both of his 9 darters have come in evening sessions. We've seen the likes of Shane McGurk go
55.
berserk in the past when it comes to a night session. So Kieran Tierney one on a Saturday night, the first Saturday night we had here. So it seems to be a thing that, and particularly you look at the setup of darts in places like the Republic of Ireland, where a lot of your league stuff, okay, we're not talking about the extremities of how late tonight's going to finish, but they're used to playing darts at around about this time of the day.
140.
Another for double 10. Oh, that's impressive, isn't it?
4 flag. Carl Sneyd.
Yeah, that deserves a clap. Fair play, Ronan. We join you in that.
5th flag. It's Carl to throw first.
3 darts, 3 words, crash, bang, wallop. By the way, what you said, most of it was true. And you somewhat withdrew from the truth.
59.
They do play that late in Ireland. You do exhibitions in Ireland, they don't tend to start until 11 o'clock at night. And they do finish rather late.
100.
I once went to an exhibition. It was the very first one I did over there. Got there, usual hour early. Nobody in there thinking, maybe Irish people don't like my brand of the game. And the landlord said, oh no, they'll be here.
100.
But in about 4 hours. And 4 hours later, you couldn't move in that place. So, thinking that Ronan's not going to be comfortable playing this late, think again.
$140.
Well, I was speaking to Ronan early on the season, first time I've ever met him, and I just wanted to get to know him a little bit better. And I said, have you got aspirations to take this game further? And he kind of gave me a look up and down and said, well, why would I want to do things like this if I didn't want to progress my way any further? He's got a lot of ambition as the 23-year-old to progress his way further
43.
along the field when it comes to this sport. I don't think he's in a particular rush to get it all done right now, but you feel like he's the type of player that if he can continue just to move in the right direction as time goes along, he could be a player to watch out for in the future. That max there leaves Sneyd on 22, forces this to go.
38. Carly requires
Now we're about to
22.
find out if leaving double 11 was the best player. Before he even goes for double 11, I agree with what he did.
$11. Ronan, you require
Seriously,
40.
how many times do you go for a double 11? Not very often. You'll go for this plenty. Oh, look at that. There's the fire that we saw the last couple of days. I think his ambition is to make Saturday.
Game on.
And he doesn't care if he ruffles feathers along the way.
Tell you what, Carl Sneyd gave a real inquisitive look as Ronan McDonagh came back down the hockey. And I think, as I mentioned earlier, Carl's the type of player, he keeps it within himself most of the time, but I think he enjoys that air of battle when someone's giving something, he can then give it back.
43.
I can't help but think what Mervyn King would think of that.
85.
That would be interesting.
Could you imagine a game between Roman McDonagh and Johan Brouwer?
121.
It's conceivable, isn't it?
Well, for Carl Sneyd, he's going to be going to the vacuum-like environment, the sterilised environment of the Pro Tour, where that sort of stuff is completely outlawed and banned, where the celebrations have to be muted.
Yeah, they do. And it will be cold on Monday and Tuesday, because it always is at the Robin Park Tennis Centre on Monday and Tuesday
140
in February.
137.
This is for the match. At least it was.
59.
Well, this afternoon we had 7 games go the distance. Carl Sneyd on the cusp of ensuring the first match of Group B has the same fate. 5-5 to take us to a last leg decider, but there are 2 opportunities that have come and gone for the Bomber. McDonagh, 78. Gonna get a dart at tops here to claim a first win in Group
58.
B, but it just drags low.
Not quite. That was a fabulous chance to win this match. And now he's got to go all the way back to the start of the leg. Great game to start this group off. This is the kind of level that we should expect from Carl. Averaging 90. 3 out of 9 on the doubles is pretty good. As for Ronan, he has improved as the week's gone on. I think his confidence is starting to grow.
60.
Let's face it, at certain points of this week, Ronan has struggled. Early games, not great. Against certain opponents, maybe has struggled a little bit, lack of experience. But give him 3 days. He's found Group B in a tough Group A situation.
60.
He can play.
How many times do we say it's all about players on debut in this competition, that sometimes they just need that adjustment time? For Ronan, he's had that first group, which was always going to be a free hit for him. And now as he heads towards the serious business in the second half of the week, is he beginning to find an extra gear? Well, he's finding an extra gear in this final leg.
100.
Throws them really hard, doesn't he? And I mean really hard. No such thing as hovering these darts through the air. They are thrust.
Ronan, you require 121.
For the match, and he's got 6 on this point, so didn't have to attack it in the first instance and isn't going to attack it here.
59.
See, that was a risky play, wasn't it? Going for the treble 19, you get it, you leave double 12, all good. But by getting the single, you're still a treble away from a double.
65.
That's why Carl has gone for the 25 there, to get 62. Under a bullseye checkout. Ronan might just have 1 here.
Well, 1's what he should have had, but 1 is what he's not going to get. And Carl Sneyd is going to be presented with an opportunity. It's mid-range.
49.
And he's missed the big number again there. It's all gone wrong for Owen McDonagh. Carl Sneyd's already taken out the 140 in this match. He only needs 1 treble with this combination to give himself a match dart, but he now fluffs his lines right at the finish, and so McDonagh 42. Is hoping that 13 is lucky 13. For him.
Yeah, his confidence on single numbers isn't great, though. But that's a really good dart. 4-4 to win.
Game shot and a match.
And 4-4 does it for the Irishman. Roman McDonagh wins his first game in Group B. He beats Carl Sneyd, a recent Challenge Tour winner, by 4 legs to 3 in a real good encounter. Solid in terms of averages, solid in terms of finishing. Coming up after the break, Charlie plays Lee. Are you ready to lift that trophy, Darius?
Yes.
Let's do it then. Ladies and gentlemen, your MODUS Super Series 9 champion is Lucky D, Darius Labanowski!
What a wonderful night of darts we have seen, and we are ready. Our champion is ready, and it's trophy time. so receive the trophy. £25,000. The new MODUS Super Series champion, the Terminator, Marvin Van Velzen. And one more time, the 8th MODUS Super Series champion, the Terminator, Marvin Van Velzen. And the new MODUS Super Series champion is Andreas Dirty Harrison. And one more time, the 7th MODUS Super Series champion. Give it up for Andreas Dirty Harrison.
The moment we've all been waiting for. Would you please show your appreciation for your Series 6 MODUS Super Series champion, Scott Taylor?
One more time, your new MODUS Super Series champion. He is Chucky. He is Jim McEwen.
Ladies and gentlemen, your MODUS Super Series champion, retaining his title, the Luke Littler! Welcome back to the MODUS Super Series, where before the break we saw Ronan McDonagh get the better of Carl Sneyd by 4 legs to 3 with an average of 86.66 and 4 out of 9 on the doubles. Next up, we have Charlie Large take on Lee Cox. Yep, there we go. We'll get the joke out the way with. Yes, I know what their last names are. Let's get straight to the darts, shall we? And see how these two are going to fare at the live lounge in Portsmouth. Charlie, now 20 years of age, he burst onto the scene by making it through to the first ever WDF Boys Final back in 2022. He takes on Lee, double his age, 41 from Crawley, twice a weekly finalist. It's fair to say that this competition has been a real love-hate relationship for Lee. He loves playing here, but he'll hate by and large the results that he gets back out of this place. He's a player with immense ability. We've seen that not just here at times, but in other tournaments. But he'll feel like when you consider the CV he's got,
it's Charlie to throw
that
first.
his record in this competition should be better than 2 finals night appearances in 14 attempts.
Yes, that's fair enough. But I think there's something to learn from that. And something to learn from this week. But if you put them together, what Lee's got to do, and got to do very well and quickly,
140
is find this ability of learning from past failure to move on and be successful.
108.
Good start from Charlie.
He...
So you don't win Group A. You had the same amount of points as Ronan McDonagh
6.
and eventual winner Conan Whitehead. And it boils down, for me, to this one line. And it's a line that Lee said yesterday.
105.
I was leading the entire time. It's how you say it. It's how you feel about it, isn't it?
6.
That comes across
Charlie
negatively because he didn't get the job
120.
done. But if you say it this way, he was leading the entire time. That was a positive thing.
41.
The issue is he may not be leading at the end of this leg because Charlie, with a new setup this time around, and we'll talk a bit more about that as the night goes on. Has got off to a good start. He's left himself on a 2-darter after 12 on the throw, and Cox is a long way back. It's double little, and they've decided to split it to leave himself 8. Misses that. Effectively, by doing that, he's not given much faith to Lee in terms of the 160. How wrong he could be. How wrong he could be. Double top. Would have been for an electric start for Lee Cox.
Requires 16.
My word, that was close.
Game shot
He loses the first leg, but this is the thing. Last 3 days, yes, it didn't end well.
Second leg, it's Lee to
Super
throw
close,
first.
just like that 160. I'll say one thing, a lesser player wouldn't have even had a shot at tops. A lesser player wouldn't have even finished on 18 points in a Group A. I'm seeing nothing but positives for Lee. Nothing but positives. I hope he feels the same, because this is a group that he can impose himself on again.
Well, this is Lee's setup.
Old school Chisnell dart. Bonded stem and flight in jet black. This is what you got from Charlie. Spiral point. Uniform grip tungsten barrel. Natural tungsten in colour. Do you know what these setups say to me? Uncomplicated.
99.
The setup's different, but it doesn't
171.
look dissimilar to the type of darts he's thrown in the past. That maximum visit there, leaving himself on 138 after 9, averaging 103.5 after a leg and a half. And if he takes this out in 6, he could be towards the halfway point of this match. He has dominated Lee in the opening exchanges.
58.
But we'll be careful here, because if Lee can muster up something significant, then from 6 darts and 138, he may only get a solitary dart. And a double to open up a 2-0 lead. And that could exactly be the case here, because Lee's left himself on 32.
Couldn't have done much more. He's got a fence in the way of tops.
40.
He hits the fence.
Lee require 32.
But you can see the grimace on his face. They did not like the route to tops one bit. Lee has a clean lie. But how has he not found that?
How did that not go in?
It was that close. Even he needed closer inspection.
No score.
I didn't even think there was a gap there.
Require 40.
What he's done is find a gap where he's made the first dart go further away.
Game shot as
a result of that,
Charlie Large.
Charlie goes 2-0 up. This is a mental hurdle right now for Lee. He's got to draw a line in the sand and say to himself, okay,
Game on.
I'm being tested. I can either fold or I can be strong.
58.
But for Charlie, I think there was a question as to how he was going to perform this week. We've seen some, I think it's fair to say, at times indifferent stuff from him in recent
49.
appearances here. But late call-up, he's acquitted himself well. I had a chat with him earlier on this evening, and he beat Simon Whitlock yesterday to win the local competition at the Phoenix Club in Waterloo. But always very competitive fields there. So he goes into this with plenty of confidence, despite the fact he hasn't actually had much time to prepare for this tournament on its own.
You can't really prepare any better than winning.
81.
Obviously got talent. He's got a hairstyle that Scott Mitchell's trying to copy. He's going for the old boy's own look.
60.
Since when did the old centre parting come back into fashion?
There's more curtains in this building this week than IKEA.
Yeah, don't you get any ideas, Deacon?
I ain't got any hair to do curtains with. Don't worry about that.
57.
That's more the slick back look from Lee.
Look at that. That's a New Jersey Goodfellas special, that one.
108.
Never a hair out of place, and look at that. Pristine in the 60 as well.
140.
Charlie's
Lee
left
require
himself in
112.
66. You get the sense that Cox has to take this out. Not to be on this occasion. And so Charlie
60.
will look at 66
Charlie
to open up a
requires
3-love
66.
lead in this game. If not, Lee is on his coattails. He's going to get one dart at double 16. Doesn't take it.
34. Lee
He should get 2 from this
52.
point at a double of choice.
I will be honest, that's the first time in a while I've seen anybody go treble 18 on 66.
Game shot on
That
the
one's
third
in.
leg. Lee Cox.
No DAR needed. That's darts assistant referee, by the way.
Fourth leg. It's Lee to throw first.
Don't worry, everybody
on.
watching on Pluto TV live here. We haven't got any plans for a darts assistant referee. We don't need one.
58.
We've got Jack. We've got wires on the dartboard. That's all we need.
It's not like other sports where there's ambiguity and you can sit in TV
100.
studios and analyse decisions for hours on end. That man's job is a difficult one, but this sport is concrete in the respect of it is black and white. All you
60.
see is what's on the board, and that is what dictates and determines the fine margins in this game.
Opinions in sport are subjective. Scores on dartboards are not.
140.
Fact is, that's a 140. Would he have wanted more? Yes, of course. But that is the beautiful game that we all love and cherish.
99.
Large in a great position here to break. 6 darts on 2-6-1. He's hitting that first dart in the treble so many times.
You do realise, Henry,
85.
that if Charlie was to win this week, he'd be the third name into Champions Week. So we'd have a small, a large, and we need to find a player that's called medium.
125.
Genuinely, is there another dart player out there actually having a name that has something to do with size?
And we can't have Jim Long either.
137.
Is anybody
Charlie
called Short?
requires 76.
Before anybody says anything, Martin Short does not play darts. He's too busy solving murders in the building. Double 18.
Game shot on the
Pinpoint.
fourth leg.
15 darter from
Large.
Charlie Large. Thrust into the limelight this week and playing
Fifth leg.
very,
It's
very
Charlie
well.
to throw first.
Well, the only problem
Game
is we can't have a Littler into Champions Week anymore. But Charlie Large here. 3-1-2 the goods.
57.
One more leg to depose of Lee Cox.
Scott Mitchell's been in touch about the hairstyles thing.
140.
He was going to get his hair cut this week, Scott, because it was getting a bit troublesome to get it done as it was getting longer. And I get the feeling he's probably going to keep it now.
58.
He's way trendier than us.
140.
I don't know. I've seen you in those nice sneakers of yours.
This white trainers debate is going to go on for a couple of days, and I'm going to remain
93.
silent about it.
If you don't hear me in the next match, that's because Paul Nicholson has thrown me off the balcony.
100.
Wouldn't be the first pundit to want to do it.
59.
Well, Lee's got to stay in this match. He's got 6 darts from here. Just don't do anything silly. Oh, no. How does he hit this 60? How has he hit
81.
that 60? I genuinely don't know.
He's finding ways. And suddenly for
83.
Charlie Large, what
Lee require 40.
looked like was coming so easy at the start is beginning to become a bit more troublesome. And the problem he's got is Cox is beginning to get better.
Game shot
Oh,
on the
what a
fifth
deflection
leg.
that
Lee
is
Cox.
into the tops. Back to 3-2.
Do you know what? We saw an amazing double 8 from Niall Cullerton this
Sixth
afternoon.
leg. It's Lee to
But
throw
that
first.
treble 20 to set
Game
that
on.
tops up from Lee Cox, that is the best dart he's thrown this week. That is an astonishing shot. Oh, come
60.
on. Well, that's maybe one of the downsides of the way his darts dance in the air. They do take a bit of speed off. So when they clatter into each other, sometimes that happens.
$134.
Well, you feel like we're at a real key stage of this contest now.
60.
Lee's done the hard work to get himself back into the contest. Has the darts here to take us all the way. But another trouble here for Charlie. You'd sense that he's in charge of the leg against the throw, but just a ton. You feel like it's kind of as you were in this leg.
99.
That's okay. He's back in touch. You do get the feeling already that a lot of games are going to be close in this group.
97.
We get to see Gary Mawson. Looking forward to seeing Gary on the hockey. First time here in Portsmouth. Adding another great venue to his resume. He's played pretty much everywhere
Charlie
else.
require 170.
Well, this would be some way for Large to win it, but he's not going to take out the big fish. But he's got 6 darts to take it out from here.
98.
And he leaves himself on a 2 darts upon his return. How many times he left himself on something like that after a dozen darts? Constantly giving himself a bona fide opportunity with his 5th visit.
82.
And he's got a
Charlie
chance now
requires
to take this
72.
game out if he can find this 72. He was seen as one of the outsiders before this group began. He got given a late call-up to play in this Group B, and he's going to have 2 darts in his hand here, a double 6 to win his first match of the group. Charlie Large gets the better of Lee Cox by 4 legs to 2, and it's no laughing matter for the man from Portsmouth. A really good performance, average just underneath 90, 4 from 8 on his doubles. A really good performance to start. Large 4, Cox 2, Mawson Sneyd is coming up next. Are you ready to lift that trophy, Darius? Yes. Let's do it then. Ladies and gentlemen, your MODUS Super Series 9 champion is Lucky D, Darius Labanowski!
Well, what a wonderful night of darts we have seen, and we are ready. Our champion is ready, and it's trophy time. So receive the trophy. £25,000.
The new MODUS Super Series champion, the Terminator, Marvin Van Velzen. And one more time, the 8th MODUS Super Series champion, the Terminator, Marvin Van Velzen. And the new MODUS Super Series champion is Andreas Dirty Harrison. And one more time, the 7th MODUS Super Series champion. Give it up for Andreas Dirty Harrison.
The moment we've all been waiting for. Would you please show your appreciation for your Series 6 MODUS Super Series champion, Scott Taylor?
One more Super Series champion. He is Chucky. He is Jim McDonagh.
Ladies and gentlemen, your MODUS Super Series champion, retaining his title, the Nuke, Luke Littler! Welcome back to the MODUS Super Series. Before the break, Charlie Large got the better of Lee Cox by 4 legs to 2. That's our second match of the evening session. Game 3 sees Sneyd and Mawson go toe-to-toe. We've already seen Carl Sneyd in action. He actually lost to McDonagh by 4 legs to 3. But it's a debut on this stage for Gary Mawson from Fort Myers. His debut appearance, the Mauler, 61 years of age. Born in Canada, but represents the United States. Up against Carl Sneyd. We've seen him before tonight. The 37-year-old from Oldham, as I mentioned, lost out to Ronan in the opening game of the evening. For Gary, this feels like a long-awaited debut. He's one of a large line of American players that have played here. And it actually reminds me of the time that we saw Larry Butler in this build, the 94 match play champion, a great player for the United States over a number of years. We had to wait so long to see his debut. We've had to wait a while to see Gary in this building, but it's great to see him here, the former UK Open runner-up. But what can he do, Paul Nicholson, on the MODUS Super Series stage?
41.
The fact is, Gary's still got game. He won on the CDC Tour as early as last year.
81.
He's been winning tournaments for 30 years. And he can still throw really good stuff. Otherwise, he wouldn't even be here.
140.
So there you go. First 140 on this stage in his second visit. Gary's still got game.
78.
Just because he's 61 doesn't mean he can't succeed. Always had a lovely throw. More experience in his left thumbnail
60.
than in most players' careers. So he will know every trick in the book. And when it comes to round-robin play, he's been there and done it.
It's interesting that he was mentioning earlier on
128.
this evening that he's played on many stages. He's played in Blackpool, he's played at the Circus Tavern, he's played at all the iconic venues, the Reebok, which is perhaps appropriate tonight. That of all the throws that he's played on, this feels like the one that on first glance, first inspection, it just felt so nice on the arm.
A darts venue,
57.
4 players, built by players. That's why a lot of great golf courses that are designed these days are done so by
33.
Greg Norman,
Carly require
Jack Nicklaus and Nick
157.
Faldo. Designed by golfers. Look at this. Tops for Carl.
Game shot.
And he's off to a
leg.
flyer.
Sneyd.
Welcome to the Super Series, Gary.
Second leg. It's Carl to throw first. Game on.
Well, Carl Sneyd is a player that has gone up in our estimation because of what he's done recently. He's gone up in a class, and he is providing some of that class. In terms of his finishing,
60.
the 157 joins the 140 in his big finish catalogue. And because he lost that first game to Ronan McDonagh, he has to get a good result here. And he's got the break of throw
45.
that he needed at some point in this contest if he was to go on and win this match.
$59.
Gary is currently resident of Fort Myers in Florida. Talking to him earlier tonight, I said, those hurricanes must be quite pesky. And he said, nah, they're fine.
34.
They come, they go. We clean up the garden, we move on. Now that's looking at the glass half full.
6.
Fort Myers is just down the west coast of Florida from Sarasota. And I know of a very famous resident of Sarasota. Lead singer of AC/DC.
125.
Brian Johnson lives in Sarasota. And of course, Tampa is on the west coast of Florida as well. Home of the very famous
94.
Buccaneers. And the Lightning, who have indeed won the Stanley Cup.
58.
Meanwhile, Oldham is best known for the fact that in 1991 they went very deep in the FA Cup.
Yeah, and they had a really good left winger called Rick Holden.
140.
He was good. Really good. They were a great team back then.
79.
Well, Sneyd
Charlie require
took care of
88.
something rather large in the first leg. This is a somewhat medium-sized finish. He gets that as
Games on
well.
the second leg, Sneyd.
Large, medium. Next one's going to be a little one. But no matter what, he
Third
finds the
leg,
mark.
It's Gary to throw first.
This is an incredibly good performance from Carlson. This is the type of performances that now he's won that Challenge Tour, we kind of expect on a more regular basis. 9-to-1 averages and killing off opportunities when he needs to.
He's got Mawson a bit shell-shocked here. It may be a case that Mawson doesn't know a great deal about Carl. He might be thinking, who's this guy? Is he really this good? Well, the thing is, Gary, yes, he is.
And he's playing to the type of numbers which saw him win his Challenge Tour title. He beat
85.
Maximilian Nerschel with an average of 85.75. He'd then go on to get the better in the second round of Chris Hurst of an 89.63.
99.
Okay, an 80.62 in a nervy game against Paul Rowley, 1-5-4. Then he brought it up to a 92 and change in a 5-1 win against John Henderson. 107 was the average against Reece Colley. Quarterfinals, a
58.
90 average to beat Gilbert van der Meyen 5-0. He then beat Jeffrey Spaddy Downs, who won the Dutch Open on Sunday 5-3 in the semis, before then averaging just under 92 to the pose of
83.
Tommy Lishman in the final of Challenge Tour 2 to pick up his first senior PDC title.
Something to build on, isn't it?
59.
Once you've got one, you want more. And it's a progressionary system. Who knows? If he catches fire in the next week, he might even win a Players' Championship event. Funnier things have happened because people without tour cards have won them before. Joe Mernon has done that. Scott Williams has done that. Wesley Plazier did it last year. And Christopher Tysky, he's done it too.
90.
As for Gary, it just feels like what's happened in the first couple of legs has just hit him a little bit from pillar to post at the beginning of leg 3.
72.
And so Sneyd, 72, hasn't had too much to do in this third leg to put himself in charge against Fro, and he's got a dart at Tots of 3-0.
Game shot on the third leg.
3 from 3 on the doubles, and Carl Sneyd opens up a 3-0 lead, and he's looking to reverse the misfortune of his opening match, and he's got the darts there to do it to 0.
It may not be destructive in the scoring department.
99.
It's only a couple of 140s. And weirdly, only 1 ton plus score. But the doubling, pristine.
66.
And he's restricted his opponent to 0 in this particular contest. And because of that win, Carl Sneyd finished third after the first weekend on the Challenge Tour Order of Merit. And
140.
there's a lot of people that say the most important weekend on the Challenge Tour circuit is the first weekend. And because of the fact that only 3 players withdrew from the first round of Pro Tour action in the PDC Players' Championship, Carl got the last invite, and that was mainly because of his exploits on that particular afternoon.
Well, for me, the biggest thing
138.
about that is that he comes here, there's pressure on him. He's expected to make Saturday. He's fancied to win this title this week. When he goes to Wigan, pressure's off. Go and have a blast call. That'd be my advice. Mawson's found his first max of this week in this leg, but it could be a leg that sees him drilled into the ground
56.
by Carl Sneyd.
Gary, you require 155.
Well, he hasn't had a look in, has he, so far in this match, and he's not going to get a look at the 155. And so Carl Sneyd, who's averaging in excess of 92, is 3 from 3 on his doubles in this match, has got an opportunity to dispose of the American in 9 minutes flat if he can find double 10. That
58.
would have sealed a comprehensive 4-0
Gary,
win.
you require 95.
Decides to go traditional. Not surprised to see that from
63.
someone with his level of
Charlie
experience.
require 10.
And so Carl Sneyd, to wrap it up,
Shot
finds
and the
double
match,
5.
Carl Sneyd.
The Bomber lost his first game to McDonagh by 4 legs to 3, but he has come back well. A 4-0 success against the American Gary Mawson, who was restricted to not a single opportunity at the double in that match. Carl Sneyd, a comprehensive winner by 4 legs to 0, averaged just under 90, 4 from 6 when it came to his doubling, and included that brilliant 157 finish in the opening leg of the match. Coming up after the break, we're going to see the return of Ronald McDonagh taking on Charlie Large, and the winner of that match will be the first player onto 4 points. Are you ready to lift that trophy, Darius?
Yes.
Let's do it then. Ladies and gentlemen, your MODUS Super Series 9 champion is Lucky D, Darius Lewandowski!
Well, what a wonderful night of darts we have seen, and we are ready. Our champion is ready, and it's trophy. So receive the trophy. £25,000. The new MODUS Super Series champion, the Terminator, Marvin Van Velzen. And one more time, the 8th MODUS Super Series champion, the Terminator, Marvin Van Velzen. And the new MODUS Super Series champion is Andreas Dirty Harrison. And one more time, the 7th MODUS Super Series champion. Give it up for Andreas Dirty Harrison.
The moment we've all been waiting for. Would you please show your appreciation for your Series 6 MODUS Super Series champion, Scott Taylor?
One more time, your new MODUS Super Series champion. He is Chucky. He is Jim McEwen.
Ladies and gentlemen, your MODUS Super Series champion Welcome back to the stunning Modus Live Lounge here on the south coast of England. We're based in Portsmouth, Hampshire. And this is the MODUS Super Series, where before the break, Carl Sneyd got the better of Gary Mawson by 4 legs to nil. Average just under 90. 4 from 6 on his doubles, including a 1-5-7 checkout. Our fourth match sees Charlie Large and McDonagh go toe-to-toe. Both players winning their opening match as outsiders. Ronan beating Carl Sneyd 4-3, whilst Charlie Large got the better of the favourite to win this group in Lee Cox by 4 legs to 2. So the winner of this match will be the first player on to 4 points in proceedings. And the winner of this game will feel like early on in proceedings that they've got a real foothold in this group.
Yeah, just a bit. Because most of the time,
60.
if you can get 4 points really early and then you have 6 games to play, if you can double your tally from there, that's usually safe. And the job
58
is to get into the top 3, of course. And I'd say 90% of the time,
24.
8 points is enough.
The only way really it doesn't is if it's a group where 4 or even all 5 players are on 8 points. There's a possibility that can happen in a Group B scenario. It's never happened yet, but we have got close a couple of times.
$57.
Early on Monday morning, I have to be honest, I didn't know a great deal about Ronan McDonagh. We've learned a lot about him the last 3.5 days.
138.
And there are games in this group that make me really happy because there are fixtures.
45.
If it wasn't for this
Charlie
place,
requires 68.
these fixtures wouldn't happen. Double 16.
Game shot
And look how sharp
leg,
that
Charlie
is.
Large.
Large by name, chances are very large
Second leg
if he
is
keeps
Charlie
playing like that.
First. Game on.
But realistically, Henry, where would Charlie Large play Gary Mawson?
43.
Where would he play Ronan McDonagh?
You and Matthew Edgar coined the phrase, "This is the place where worlds collide," and
100.
these are people from completely different landscapes within the sport, going head to head in a arena as equals.
96.
By and large, these types of matches back in the day would be played in one place and one place only. It'd be played on a lake next to Frimley Green.
That's correct. We have development players coming here.
140.
We have seniors. We have aspiring players who've never had a chance before.
100.
And people who are just about to go onto the Pro Tour for the first time. And people who aspire to do just that and become world champions.
And of course, Charlie came very close to being a world champion at the Lakeside a couple of years ago. Lost out incredibly in a couple of months. It'll be 3 years ago since he made that final.
100.
And he lost out to Bradley Roos
120.
on the final Sunday of Lakeside 2022. But what can he make of the 120 here to open up a 2-0 lead? Double top.
80.
Pitch just above.
Ronan, you require 141.
He's asking a very stiff question of Ronan, though.
89. Charlie, you require
This
40.
is your typical game of people of this age. Blink and you'll miss it.
Game shot on the second leg. Charlie
So
Large.
far, so good for Charlie Large into a 2-0 lead. And you have to say this evening, playing some real
Third leg is
tidy
Ronan
stuff,
to throw first.
is the man from
Game on.
Waterlooville, just in the adjacent town to the home city of the Super Series of
100.
Portsmouth.
Yeah, it's been a good start to the night for Charlie. And a fabulous start of the Premier League for world number 1
serve.
Luke Humphries, who was just beating Chris Dobie in the final. Sorry if that's a spoiler, by the way.
50 serve.
6-1 the win for Luke Humphries. Now, if you have just joined us because you were watching that action, we'll just about forgive you. This is what we've seen tonight. McDonagh beat Sneyd by 4 legs to 3 in the opening
99.
match of the night. Charlie Large got a 4-2 win over Lee Cox in Game 2. And then in the match that we've just seen before the break, Carl
59.
Sneyd with a 4-0 win over Gary Mawson. This is match 4 of 10 that we're going to be broadcasting to you tonight on Pluto TV. And then after 5 matches,
59.
we're going to reveal who the players are going to be for week 4 of Super Series 10. And if Ronan McDonagh is representing the Republic of Ireland here, well, that's very much, I'll give you a little bit of a hint, the nation to look out for next week.
93. Ronan, you require 154.
So by the time he got into the match. And he may just do so. Great
138.
approach. Wow. Such pressure.
171. Ronan, you require 16.
Don't miss, Ronan. You can't afford to do that. Because Charlie right now
require 22.
is a little bit on fire.
And this is how a best-of-7 game can swing so quickly. Just when Ronan thought he had a bit of breathing space to reduce the gap back down to 1, Charlie Large with a 1-7-1 turn. He's seen his opponent miss 3 at a double, and if he can find double 11 just like
on the
that,
third
he's
leg,
3-0
Charlie
to the
Large.
good. He gets the double breaker throw, and now he has the darts for the match.
Fourth leg.
And this
it's Charlie to
is
the
for
row
his
first.
second consecutive win
Game on.
and to take charge of the group.
$61.
Bit of a play on words, but Large in charge. Or should we say Charles in charge?
57.
It's not quite Charlie's Angels, but he is the leading light so far in this Group B.
57.
Just a little bit he is. It's a good level of play as well. It's very consistent. It's around the 90 mark. That's going to do a lot of damage.
100.
This is the kind of young player that constantly is found in Hampshire. It's no wonder this county has just got so much history with quality.
180.
And when you've got a tournament like this on your doorstep, how can you not be inspired to play better? Back-to-back 180s between the pair.
$57. Ronan, you require 164.
He refuses to go quietly, that's for sure.
54.
Well, this is a
Charlie,
match
you
chance
require 146.
For a second consecutive 4-0 on the stage.
Even though he didn't find the chub with Dart 1, he gave himself such a handy guide with Dart 2. 80 scored, so 66 left. He has got options here. And of course for 54 to leave himself double
Ronan, you
6, which he's
require
already found
110.
in this match. And because McDonagh couldn't find the ball with Dart 2 to leave tops, he's going to come back for that
61.
target
Charlie, you
to
require
double up
12.
his winning tally for the night. For 4-zip, no
Game shot,
problem.
and the
Double
mark,
6 is
Charlie
found
Large.
for Charlie Large, and he's got it done in less than 8 minutes. Quick fire stuff from Charlie Large, who has got the biggest win possible on that stage. Have a look at those numbers. 93, 94. That's the equivalent of 16 darts per leg. 4 out of 7 on his doubles. 57%. Everything about that performance was exemplary from Charlie Large. We're off for a short break, and when we return, we're going to be watching Lee Cox's match with Gary Mawson. Are you ready to lift that trophy, Darius? Yes. Let's do it then. Ladies and gentlemen, your MODUS Super Series 9 champion is Lucky D, Darius Labanowski!
Well, what a wonderful night of darts we have seen, and we are ready. Our champion is ready, and it's trophy. So receive the trophy. £25,000. The new MODUS Super Series champion, the Terminator, Marvin Van Velzen. And one more time, the 8th MODUS Super Series champion, the Terminator, Marvin Van Velzen. And the new MODUS Super Series champion is Andreas Dirty Harrison. And one more time, the 7th MODUS Super Series champion. Give it up for Andreas Dirty Harrison.
The moment we've all been waiting for. Would you please show your appreciation for your Series 6 MODUS Super Series champion, Scott Taylor.
One more time, your new MODUS Super Series champion. He is Chucky. He is Jim McEwen.
Ladies and gentlemen, your MODUS Super Series champion, retaining his title, the Nuke, Luke Littler! Welcome back to the MODUS Super Series, where before the break, Charlie Large got the better of Ronan McDonagh by 4-0. That completes our 4th match of the evening session here at the Live Lounge in Portsmouth. The middle match sees Lee Cox and Gary Mawson go toe-to-toe. Lee trying to look on the lighter side of things. He was beaten by Charlie Large by 4-2, and that was after the disappointment that came at the end of Group A on Wednesday afternoon. He must feel like there is some kind of voodoo involving him in this place, because it doesn't matter how he goes in a campaign, no matter what level he plays at, there's seemingly a way that something stops him in his tracks somehow.
Game on.
If you look at his first match, he was on a level par with Charlie Large. In fact, he averaged more than Charlie. But the big issue was both players had 8 attempts at a double. Charlie was 50%,
100.
Lee only 2 from 8 on the doubles. Now, Gary struggled in his first match, but you feel like possibly that was get the ring rust out the way type match, and maybe we'll see a different version of Gary in game 2.
What Lee will say is, Gary's going to turn up. I can just feel it.
140.
So in return, Lee should say to himself, I'm going to turn up too. I think you're right about that first game. I think Gary was just a little bit game rusty there. When you played on a stage for the first time, you're just finding your feet, getting used to the lights, the temperature. And one thing that a lot of people should understand is that if you have not played on a stage, or if you have for years like Gary has,
Lee required
you've got to get used to all of the different things around you. The colour of the stage, how strong the lights are, everything.
120.
To Lee, this is so familiar. Not to Gary.
I'm going to give you 2 stage sets in just a second, but first let's see what Cox can do with tops.
41. Lee require 40.
For 1-0. Double top. Now double 10 for Lee.
30.
Cannot go, but Mawson is a long way back. Interestingly, he's just got a process at the back of the stage whilst Gary
95. Lee
throws his
required
dart
10.
straight back to the drinks table, has a sip,
Game shot
and then
of
straight
first
into the
leg,
double
Lee
five, and he can sip from the cup of success. Now let's talk about different stage sets, because you mentioned that. When you look at
Second
the
leg, it's
surroundings
Gary
here
to
at the
throw
live
first.
lounge, it's all one
Game
colour.
on.
It's all very, very dark. Whereas, for example, if you play at the lakeside, well, there's colours everywhere all over that stage.
60.
What's your question?
So how does that change the player when the stage set can look a little bit different? Or does it not matter when it's game on?
Oh, no, it matters.
58.
This game is about depth perception. Let me illustrate something to you. You've probably seen on social media a lot of full-time PDC professionals
68.
tailoring their practice rooms to what the cubicles are like on the Pro Tour, in the same palette of blue, because they want to get used to their depth perception with that colour.
108.
People who come here on a regular basis, they're probably making it black because they want to make sure that they know what it's like to play with an all-black surround.
95.
Play at Lakeside, you're covered in colours. I threw darts on that stage and thought, ooh, this is a bit weird. Depth perception was different.
I can say I hit a 140 on that
95.
stage.
How many darts?
Not quite Gavin Roderick levels.
99.
Well, Lee's doing the right things here. He's got 6 darts from 168.
$60.
I'm not going to repeat myself when it comes to leaving bogey numbers. I've said it enough this week.
Well, for Lee, he's looking to put right what went wrong against Charlie in his first match of the evening. He's
45.
going the
Lee
right way
required
about it.
108.
Looking to break the throw, average in excess of 95. He may feel like the way Gary's playing, he may have 6 darts on this 108. And he's going to need that quota if he's going to take out leg 2 of this contest.
42. Gary, you require 134.
It feels unlikely. And unfortunately for Gary Mawson, it is unlikely. It's impossible now.
41.
He hasn't really made the imprint that he would have liked. So Cox, 66 for 2-0.
Double top for Lee.
46.
Right on
Gary, you
line,
require
but just a little bit
93.
lacking in flight. And Gary needs to start getting shots at double. He gets one.
61.
First one doesn't
He
yield
required
a leg
20.
win.
And so 2 10s for
Game shot on
2-0.
the second
And Lee
leg.
Cox
Leacock.
doubles his advantage in this contest. He's in full command of it. 2-0 to the good. And he
Third
looks,
leg. It's Lee to throw
if
first.
the truth be told, in cruise
on.
control, not just of this match, but also you look at the body language. He looks far more calmer, doesn't he?
140.
That happens against certain opponents. Some people are very calm on the stage against you. And that affects the way that you do things.
60.
Honestly, I can give you an example of this. 2012 World Championship, first round, I played Mensasulovic. I was an anxious mess.
86.
I won the game, and at the end of it, it was just relief. Next round, I played Alan Tabben. Cool as a cucumber. That's because Alan is so calm,
45.
and so cool, and so unflustered. It was projecting onto me, and I felt so much better for that. And I get the feeling that Lee is calm and composed here because when you play Gary Mawson, there's no bother.
83.
It's just a calm demeanour, and he projects it on people.
43.
And once again, Lee has got the serenity of time to open up a 3-leg gap in this match. 6 on 192, and well, it's going to be more than that because Mawson's on 353. Going about his business well, went across for the 12s with the last iron hand. That leaves himself on 60. Leaves himself on a nice single to double upon his return.
By the way, I'm a big fan of that line, the serenity of time. It sounds like the next Jilly Cooper novel.
140. Lee requires
Lee
6.
looking to write the next chapter in this match, and he'll be hoping that from this point there's only one more chapter to be told of this tungsten tale.
20.
He cannot get it through the sandwich.
He's going to come back.
85. Lee require 40.
For more daylight. Just hit that barrel. A little higher.
20.
Just a little bit messy now, isn't it?
Gary require 128.
So Mawson looking at 128 to bring it back to 2-1. He's not going to get a poke. And so Lee will come back for double 10.
Lee required 20.
3-0 now. He has messed about a little bit on the doubling. 2 from 11 on the outer ring.
Game shot on the
But
third
he's
leg.
been
Lee
allowed
Cox.
time to complete legs, and he's completed the third there.
Fourth leg. It's Gary to throw first. Game on.
Trust me, Gary's going to be a big hit in this practice room. He's been around so long. He has seen things
6.
over the years that some of these guys couldn't even fathom.
He said to me earlier, actually physically came up and introduced himself to me. That
59.
is the gentleman that Gary is. And he had a little chuckle to me and said, if only this was around when I was 30 or 40 years younger.
He said something else,
58.
which I thought was really interesting. I'm not going to do it in his accent because that would be really disrespectful. But he said, we need one of these in the States. And my initial thought was, it's not the worst idea.
Well, I know there's people of influence listening to this broadcast right now, so if there's any chance that we're going to do a Las Vegas specials week, me and Nico want first
140.
dibs on comms.
Oh, no. You don't want in Vegas. No. Absolutely. Terrible idea. Put it in one of two of the next cities. One, you can do it in
6.
Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, for absolutely selfish reasons. Or you can put it in Columbus, Ohio. Because that place is amazing. And
43.
it's the home of Ohio State University. So they'd probably have the kit. Having said that, the weather in said towns are pretty cold during the winter.
Let's go to Gary's home
60.
state of Florida. That'd be a bit better, wouldn't it?
Bit windy.
Yeah, but we can live with that. But the problem is, Gary has been unable to live with Lee in this match. But for the first time, he
100.
finds himself in front in a leg. And for the first time, he'll feel like he should be first to a double.
Don't go 20s.
58.
I had to hold my
Gary
breath there. I just thought he was going to go for the
100.
20s. Tops.
Game shot
Yes,
of
Gary.
fourth leg.
On
Gary
the
Mawson.
board with a 2-dart ton topper.
Fifth leg. It's Lee to throw first. Game on.
Into the contest, and he will feel like into proceedings here at the Super Series. But the problem he's got is that was pretty much a free leg as far as Lee Cox was concerned. He had the insurance policy that he was coming back in leg 5 to throw first to win. In fact, he's got 2 opportunities on throw to go on and win the match from here. But he will not want to get to the phase where he needs to do it for a second time, because if he does so, we're going all the way to a last leg decider.
42.
Gary last year won the 3rd event on the CDC Tour in Oak Brook,
6.
Illinois, beating Jeff Springer in the final. He was at Lakeside quite recently. He also beat Jacob Womack in the semi-finals. We saw him recently here.
85.
beat Dave Cameron in the quarterfinals. No slouch there. That was a good game. 6-4 to Mawson, averaging 92.5.
60.
And of course, the CDC is all about the USA and Canada. But the CDC are doing fabulous work in trying to spread the wings of darts in the west of the world, west of Europe, places like the Bahamas.
94.
People like Rashad Sweeting, they're going to be looking at the Latin America tour as a way to further their games. And they even go to Chile now. They go to Santiago, Chile. What's not to like about that?
It's a bit cold. Anyway, Lee Cox is looking at 80 for the match and for a 4-1 win. And if not, Mawson's back here to break. It's 1 dart for the match. And that time it's found, and Lee Cox crosses the finishing line. He gets the better of Gary Mawson by 4 legs to 1. It was defeat in his opening match for Crafty Coxie, but he's rebounded well. The 4-1 success against Gary Mawson, and a shake of the hand for our referee, Jack Garwood. Well, we're now at the halfway point of the night. It's been a good evening's worth of darts so far. The middle point reached with a 4-1 win for Lee Cox over Gary Mawson. Coming up after the break, it is Carl Sneyd taking on Charlie Lodge. But remember, we're also going to have the list of next week's players. Are you ready to lift that trophy, Darius?
Yes.
Let's do it then. Ladies and gentlemen, your MODUS Super Series 9 champion is Lucky D, Darius Lewandowski!
Well, what a wonderful night of darts we have seen, and we are ready. Our champion is ready, and it's trophy time. So receive the trophy. £25,000. The new MODUS Super Series champion, the Terminator, Marvin Van Velzen. And one more time, the 8th MODUS Super Series champion, the Terminator, Marvin Van Velzen. And the new MODUS Super Series champion is Andreas Dirty Harrison. And one more time, the 7th MODUS Super Series champion. Give it up for Andreas Dirty Harrison.
The moment we've all been waiting for. Would you please show your appreciation for your Series 6 MODUS Super Series champion, Scott Taylor.
Time, your new MODUS Super Series champion. He is Chucky. He is Jim McEwen.
Ladies and gentlemen, your MODUS Super Series champion
Gates on a second leg.
Bullseye shots in a row.
Oh, yeah. 3 in a row.
Gates on a third leg.
Oh, my word.
Chamberlain.
2 more. And that is the end of his night. Very good.
John McGovern. Shane McGovern.
The Lord of the Lakeside, Shane McGurk, is back in week 4 in Series 10. He's going to be in Group B, the first time we've seen him since picking up the WDF World Lakeside title. He's going to be in Group B alongside John O'Shea, Kelvin O'Keefe. Very much an Irish affair there. Group A sees Brandon Weaning travel the length of the globe to be here. He's going to be alongside Richie House and Justin Smith, the brilliantly named Alton McDonagh. Danny Van Tripe is back after a couple of years' absence, and Patrick Decker, Mason Whitlock, Henry Coates and Luke Smith in Group C. That's next week. However, let's go back to the future, because let's head back to tonight's action, shall we? 5 matches completed, and before the break, we saw Lee Cox get the better of Gary Mawson by 4 legs to 1, but it is Charlie Large that is taking charge of proceedings. 2 wins from 2, he's top of the table, 4 points to his name. Carl Sneyd, Lee Cox and Roman McDonagh have also picked up victories, whilst Gary Mawson has unfortunately only got the solitary leg to show for tonight's action. Let's see what game number 6 is going to yield. It's a meeting between Carl Sneyd and Charlie Large. Charlie, who's already beaten the group favourite tonight, Lee Cox. That was in game 2 of the evening session. And if he can get the better of Carl Sneyd, the second favourite here, he'll put himself in an incredible position going into his final game of the night, which is going to be against Gary Mawson. But also, it puts Carl Sneyd on the back foot because he would have lost 2 of his first 3 fixtures.
Yeah, very well put, Henry. Because this group is maybe as cutthroat as it gets. Any slip-up
First leg.
could be
It's
crucial.
Carl to throw first. Game on.
Unless you get off to the kind of start that Charlie has. There's actually pressure off him now. He's got 2 wins in the bank. He'll say to himself, as long as I win one of my next 2 games, I'm going to be very happy.
140.
That's what he should be thinking. Just remove pressure. Don't think you've got to win every game to make Saturday. You get your first 2 wins.
97.
Take the pressure away. Now you just play. You don't play with pressure.
You can argue there's no pressure at all attached to Charlie Large this week. He only got the phone call on Sunday afternoon when Robert Thornton unfortunately had to withdraw. So Conan Whitehead got bumped up from B to A, and Charlie Large filled the void that was left by
99.
Whitehead not being in Group B anymore. So this is all a free hit for him, really.
I suppose it is, but as soon as that call was taken and he accepted the invitation of coming here,
100.
his bloodstream said, now we've got to do something in the next few days, haven't we?
And Carl Sneyd will feel like there's a need for urgency, and the way he's kick-started
59.
this match has given you that palpable
81.
sense. 81 left after 9. Doesn't have to attack it 12 ball, and so he's going to head across for treble 14 to give himself a dart, a double 10. He loves that target, and that's why. What is it with Southpaw Law on double 10? It was Sam Spivey this afternoon. It's Carl Sneyd this evening. He doesn't miss that target. He hardly ever misses that target, and he leads 1-0.
Do you know what you get if you cross
85.
Spivey and Carl? You get one of the greatest golfers ever. Sam Sneyd.
100.
Well, it definitely wasn't going to be Carl Spivey, was it? We'll see Spivey Man tomorrow afternoon. Top of
140.
proceedings in Group C. You never know. We could see Sneyd and Spivey go toe-to-toe on Saturday night. It could well be the final game of Saturday night, although
100.
I'm sure the likes of Whitehead, Cox, Warburton, Kelling,
And others.
Ital will all have their say about it.
140.
Yeah, Friday's going to be frantic like it always is here in Portsmouth. But there does seem
60.
to be a bit of extra
require
zip in the throw of
136.
Carl. It's not something we can measure. It's just something you look at and you think, there's something else.
58.
And it looks like conviction.
Sometimes in sport, which can be analysed to the hilt, the greatest set of analysis you can give is that with your eyes and the
140.
look and the
Charlie
feel of something. And he looks
78.
and feels a lot better. But the problem he's got is Charlie Large is matching everything that he's doing. But he's missed the
38.
dart to send this
Charlie
game to an
require
even kilter.
101.
No trouble, meaning Charlie does come back
672.
to complete something not as large.
Charlie require 40.
Double 10. Very well
Getting shot on the
found.
second
And
leg.
Carl does not
Charlie
get a
Large.
crack at a 29 checkout, which is apparently
Third leg.
the
It's
rarest
Carl to throw
checkout
first.
taken in
Game
this place in the last 2.5 years.
There's a friend of ours that works in a department here at the Live Lounge that will always message us when a 29 checkout is on. It wasn't able to be put by Carl Sneyd, but forget the 29. Carl Sneyd has kicked off perfectly at the beginning of leg 3.
96.
Oh, hang on a minute.
140.
Oh, I was hanging on. After that first dart was planted into the 60, I'm thinking, hang on a minute. He's going to do what Lishman did.
93.
Well, Lee Cox is in this group.
Yeah, he's got a 9, hasn't he?
That was the game before Tommy Lishman stole his thunder.
96.
Just on that, how can you steal someone's thunder? That's got to be part of Norse mythology.
85. Carly require
Well,
85.
potential 11 darts here. Carl Sneyd won the first leg in 12. He could go one better. Double 7 has choices. Large is not a finish.
Well, there's 14 left. Big 6 is not a bad play. I love it.
77.
It's so composed. Thing is, you go for the double 7, you hit a single 7. Nobody likes a 7 checkout.
86.
This way,
Carly
you've
require
got a clean breakdown if you split.
Charlie's playing okay on Carl's throw, but Sneyd is finding something extra when he has the darts in his hand.
Game
It's a
shot on the
14
third leg.
darter.
Goal Sneyd.
The 2 legs he's won on throw in this game have been in 12 and 14, and Carl had the opportunity to win that
Fourth
leg in
leg,
11.
it's Charlie to throw
2-1
first.
to the man from Oldham.
Game on.
I'm seeing more confidence in this guy than I've ever seen. It's not a bad week to get it. You come here.
100.
And we've already mentioned what he's going to do next week. Considering the opportunities that are afoot for Carl right now, I don't know what he does for a living.
100.
But darts is on the menu, and it's the first thing he should think in the morning, and maybe the last thing he should think about at night, just for a week. Give it everything you've got, and see what happens.
I hope this doesn't come across the
91.
wrong way, but this is by far the best version of Carl Sneyd we've seen in this. But it almost looks like a different player to the one that was suffering with the jittery nerves on his first couple of
140.
appearances. He looks a more accomplished player now than perhaps he was even 6, maybe 3 months ago. That's how quickly his development's moved on, I think.
140.
Well, let's be fair, he's from Lancashire. Talk about a tough school. You'll find a county-level dart player around every
131.
corner.
Charlie
You'll
require
find world-class players in every
170.
town.
I forget about hot pot. It's a hot spot as far as darts is concerned, Lancashire.
58. Carly require 130.
Well, you don't put fish into a Lancashire hot pot, but he's looking for a little one here. Double 5. Beautiful
Games on
from
the
the
full
bomber.
flag.
It's his
Goal
third
Sneyd.
ton plus checker of the night. It's his second 12 darts of this match. He has the
Fifth
break
flag.
of
Yes,
Charlie
Carl's
Large. He
gonna go
leads
first.
3-1 and has the darts in his hands here to
Game
see
on.
this contest through. Have a look at that. 111.79.
What is not to like?
42.
This performance so far is an absolute bunker buster.
$81.
But it's not finished yet.
59.
We have seen hot darts from Charlie as well. Don't forget that when he played Ronan McDonagh, he restricted him to 3 darts at a double in 4 legs.
140.
An average nearly 94. If he can reel off 48 darts for 3 legs in a row to get a 4-3 victory, that's not out of the
Six.
question.
Well, there was a feeling that somebody'd have to do something special to beat Charlie Large this evening. And to Carl
58.
Sneyd's credit, he's doing exactly that. 103.35 the average. Charlie himself is averaging just a shade under 90. But he's not been able to make any
60.
inroads in this match.
How many times have we seen this? Someone's on a massive average after
100.
completing their 3rd leg. And just before a potential climax of a match, that 60 becomes very elusive. Trebleless until that first dart.
100. Charlie
15 darts
require
thrown, 1 treble.
122.
Goes bullseye first with his opponent not on a finish. And he's left himself double
Game
6.
shot
That
of
is
fifth leg.
superb.
Charlie Large.
Executed beautifully from Charlie Large. He loves that double 6. He'd do anything in his
flag. It's
power to
Charlie
leave
to go
it.
first.
And he finds it
Game on.
beautifully there.
That was a perfect 90-degree shot. Centre, up, and right.
93.
Amazing.
And let's not forget, that's back-to-back tub plus checkouts in back-to-back legs. The 130 from Sneyd cancelled out
100.
with the 122 from Large. What a contest this is. Probably game of the day, game of the week so far.
58.
We have had some good games. That last game of Group C today was pretty good. 98 average for Spivey, 94 for Fag.
99.
7 legs in it. Really good conversion rates. No ton plus checkouts though. And this one,
96.
well, it has got ton plus checkouts. Let's put it that way. And there might even be another one.
This has been a proper match. And
72.
that is an unlucky bounce out that not just as it bounced that 3rd dart out, but look at the piercing it put in the flight of dart 1 as well.
Why was he going for the 18s? He should have been going for the 60. He's 60 points away from
58.
170. So that bounce out was his fault. He went for the wrong bed.
I just wonder if he's realised that one of his flights ended up quite bad in that previous turn. He may have to have a look at that as the next few minutes go along. He's having a look now, just a glance down, but he's not going to change his setup. There's a disconsolate shake of the head. Because one thing he does know is the brilliance of Charlie Large in that previous leg has given him
Charlie require
inroads. There was a break of throw in the last, and now he's left himself on the ton to level up. And he is going to have a look at it to take us to a last leg decider for only the second time this evening.
Charlie require 100.
Look at that. Plum.
Six.
This is a chance.
Charlie require 87.
Is it the bull? Is it double 18? Is it something else? He doesn't really care. He just wants to have a shot and get rid of this young lad now.
It's double 5. It's a big win. It's a
shot
big
and the match.
performance from Carl
Goal Sneyd.
Sneyd. What a performance that was. It dovetailed a little bit towards the end, but his first 3 legs won in 12, 14 and 12 darts. That included a 130 checkout in there. Charlie Large had his own moments of brilliance. He had the 1-2-2, finished off on double six. But have a look at that performance of the night from Carl Sneyd, 97.5 average, couple of maximums, 4 from 6 on his doubles, including that 130 checkout. Coming up after the break, it is Ronan McDonagh up against Lee Cox. Are you ready to lift that trophy, Darius? Yes. Let's do it then. Ladies and gentlemen, your MODUS Super Series 9 champion is Lucky D, Darius Lewandowski!
Well, what a wonderful night of darts we have seen, and we are ready. Our champion is ready, and it's trophy. So receive the trophy. £25,000. The new MODUS Super Series champion, the Terminator, Marvin Van Velzen. And one more time, the 8th MODUS Super Series champion, the Terminator, Marvin Van Velzen. And the new MODUS Super Series champion is Andreas Dirty Harrison. And one more time, the 7th MODUS Super Series champion. Give it up for Andreas Dirty Harrison!
The moment we've all been waiting for. Would you please show your appreciation for your Series 6 MODUS Super Series champion, Scott Taylor!
One more time, your new MODUS Super Series champion. He is Chucky. He is Jim McEwen.
Ladies and gentlemen, your MODUS Super Series champion, retaining his title, the Nuke, Luke Littler! Welcome back to the MODUS Super Series, where before the break, Carl Sneyd got the better of Charlie Large by 4 legs to 2. Really good game, that really good performance, averaging 97.5. 4 from 6 on his doubles, winning legs in 12, 14, 12 and 18. Charlie had his own ton plus out with a 1-2-2 on double 6. Next up for us, Lee Cox up against Ronan McDonagh, the two players that came into Group A Group B having dropped out of Group A. I'll get my groups the right way round. And these two locking corns for a 4th time this week on the live lounge stage.
First leg, it's Ronan
And it's come to the
first.
previous 3
Game on.
meetings between this pair this week. It is 2-1 in favour of Ronan. Won this meeting yesterday. 4-3. Won Tuesday's meeting 4-2. But it was Lee Cox that would win in the last leg decider on Monday. The 3 meetings
55.
between these two have all run close. What's the 4th renewal going to bring, do you think, Paul Nicholson?
I think it'll be close again. because of what's happened in previous days and in particular what's happened tonight. We've seen McDonagh get off to a really good start against Carl, but then didn't really lay a glove on Charlie Large.
57.
Lee hasn't really had a dissimilar night. He was too good for Gary Mawson, but wasn't able to stop Charlie. So they've had the same problem. But I think maybe this fixture might be the key
60.
to the progression in this group for Lee. He's going up against someone who's played all week long in a group that he led 99% of the time.
140.
So if he's got any lingering frustrations, I think this is the opponent he can take it out on. And if he gets the better of him a couple of times,
100.
I can see him getting through.
46.
Well, McDonagh's going to get a look then at this 84 to take the opening leg of this contest. Cox finding a trouble with his last start, leaving himself on a single to double if this doesn't go. He's got 2 in hand at double 12. The first one kisses the wire, but the second one goes further away. Almost felt a little bit rushed that last start. And Cox will come back. Looking at double top. 10s for the break.
26.
Doesn't go.
Ronan, you require 24.
That dart of double 10 seems to be steering right.
It's on the first leg, Ronan McDonagh.
And it's something that Lee's going to have to figure out, especially now that he's behind.
Second leg, it's Lee to throw first. Game on. $140.
As far as Lee's concerned, how much has he got to make sure that in his mind
82.
he doesn't feel like if things go against him that there's a festering linger in his mind that what happened on Wednesday could happen to him again.
59.
What he's got to say to himself is it's not Wednesday anymore. You're in a different group. You're in a different campaign.
57.
This is where having the right people around you is crucial. If you've got friends or
31.
players around you who keep saying to you, yeah, you should have won that group, it's not going to help him.
100.
Don't linger on the past. What you do is you use the past so you can be more astute. You think about how you
41.
felt in those last 3 defeats, which cost him the group. And you say to yourself, okay, did I feel nervous? Was I apprehensive?
60.
And you figure out ways to put it right. Because there are ways to move on. And here's the big thing. If you
60.
constantly do the same things over and over and over again, and you expect different results, that's where things will not change.
Lee require
Well, that's the definition of insanity. Doing the same thing over and over and expecting the same results. No result on the 170. McDonagh's back for the break, in for a 2-0 lead if he can take out this 64.
64.
And he's just running his own race in this match, isn't he?
44.
Just doing his own
Lee
thing, but
require
now he has to hope
112.
that Lee cannot find the 112. Be his first ton plus out of the night. Missed tops to the 160, and now tops is what he's looking at here. And just like his previous attempt, just beneath the wire.
And that one veered a little bit right as well, just like that one.
Game shot on
But it is 2-0 to Ronan, who is playing here tonight like he hasn't got a care in the world.
Third leg, it's Ronan to throw first.
I hate to say this,
Game on.
but I think of all of the 5 players in this group, I think he's the one who's free rolling. Mawson's coming in with reputation.
140.
Lee's coming in off the back of almost winning Group A. I think Charlie will be expecting to do things here because he's a very confident young man. Sneyd is in form.
60.
But McDonagh, he was on the fixture sheet at the start of the week. And nobody was lodging him up
55.
to qualify for Saturday or even win. So I think he has the freedom to go and do whatever he wants.
Well, McDonagh is very much
100.
popular in Portsmouth at this time on a Thursday night, and very much so here, although I don't think he's going to be in your popular books for
100.
staying upstairs on 306 when Cox can leave himself on a finish for Max.
Henry, nobody's
58.
always going to do the right thing. You're always going to make a mistake. Mistakes are just part of life.
54.
But if you're on 306 and your opponent is ahead of you and you go for 20s, that is something you just have to learn not to do.
45.
We've seen Mike
Ronan, you
Warburton this
require
week
152.
change tactics. 1 on 201, and it's been a brilliant thing to see. It's called evolution.
32.
If you keep doing the wrong things at the wrong times, you will continue to be beaten.
140.
Lee
Ronan, you
leaves himself
require
on a two-darter,
120.
but can Ronan climb the ladder? He's found the treble. Now looking at tops.
100.
Just
Lee
underneath. You'd
require
see it
98.
skimmed underneath the bottom wire there.
I actually thought that was in. Double 19. Be aggressive.
60. Ronan, you require 20.
There was aggression, but not execution. And so McDonagh back for double 10.
Game shot on
And
the
he
third
moves
leg.
into a
Ronan
3-0
McDonagh.
lead. And for Lee Cox, that same sinking feeling that he had against Charlie Large may
Full
come
flag.
into
It's
the
Lee
rear
to
view
throw
mirror
first.
again.
Game on. Six.
There was a puff of the cheeks there from Lee. I'm sure this is very, very hard work for him.
60.
But there has to be a time. Because of how you feel, you've got to be able to draw a line in the sand. If you're tired, figure it out.
60.
This is where practicing tired actually comes in handy. Putting in that extra 20%
100.
sharpens the brain a little bit. Listen to your body, listen to your mind, listen to your extremities. Think about how you feel.
6.
Whatever it is you need to do to feel just a little better, you just do it.
And I feel like that's the story of Lee, isn't it?
140.
Taking that next step because we know the innate ability he's got.
It's taking control. The talent is there. And whenever something happens like that, you accept, then you move on. You don't
45.
stew. Take it from someone who knows. If you stew, you lose.
Well, there would have been a nagging disappointment from Ronan that he strayed wide with the last start there.
140. Ronan, you
And he's
require
left himself on 101 if this doesn't go. Another one of them. Just underneath, and so Cox comes back
83.
101
You require
to get his first
101.
leg on the board, and if he doesn't take it, Ronan's back for the match. Well, it's not a disaster, but he cannot recover.
Well, that's the thing about that first start, isn't it? You've got to hit the one at some
37.
point.
Ronan, you require 73.
Double top.
Game shot.
And Ronan
the
McDonagh
match. Ronan
has got
McDonagh.
himself a very, very valuable 4-0 win right there. He will go to 4 points and join Carl Sneyd and Charlie Large at the top. Lee will stay in 4th position at this stage, but he's still got a game against Carl Sneyd to come. But he's going to have to bounce back from that one. It was a bit attritional at times, but Ronan, with a 4-0 victory, has just got his leg difference back into the positive as well. So he's going to be 3rd going into our 8th match of the night here, as Charlie Large is about to finish up against Gary Mawson.
Are you ready to lift that trophy, Darius? Yes. Let's do it then. Ladies and gentlemen, your MODUS Super Series 9 champion is Lucky D, Darius Lewandowski!
Well, what a wonderful night of darts we have seen, and we are ready. Our champion is ready, and it's trophy time. So receive the trophy. £25,000. The new MODUS Super Series champion, the Terminator, Marvin Van Velzen. And one more time, the 8th MODUS Super Series champion, the Terminator, Marvin Van Velzen. And the new MODUS Super Series champion is Andreas Dirty Harrison. And one more time, the 7th MODUS Super Series champion. Give it up for Andreas Dirty Harrison.
The moment we've all been waiting for. Would you please show your appreciation for your Series 6 MODUS Super Series champion, Scott Taylor?
One more time, your new MODUS Super Series champion. He is Chucky. He is Jim McEwen.
Ladies and gentlemen, your MODUS Super Series champion, retaining his title, the Nuke, Luke Littler! Welcome back to Pluto TV and to the MODUS Super Series. We are 7 games down on this Thursday night before the break. Mawson and McDonagh sealed a 4-0 success over Lee Cox. Next up for us, we're going to watch Charlie Large for the last time on this Thursday evening. A win here will see him finish his campaign on 6 points and top of the table temporarily ahead of Carl Sneyd's final match against Lee Cox in Game 9 of the evening session. So what we're going to see here for Gary Mawson, well, it's been a tough and trying night at times in this Group B environment. He's got just the solitary leg to his name, but that solitary leg did come with a ton plus checkout in his previous match against Lee Cox. For Charlie Large, well,
First leg,
we're
it's
keen
Charlie
to know what we're going to get
first.
from him. High
Game on.
80s, low 90s, and the doubling is probably going to be a bit good.
He's been really impressive tonight, isn't he?
57.
Playing a very seasoned player or not, Charlie will want to leave tonight with 6 points. If he qualifies for Saturday, this place is going to be full. So if you want to get your tickets now,
140.
I would advise it. Last Saturday night was a sellout, and it was packed and loud.
100.
Great atmosphere, and I expect that to happen again, especially if this young man is in the building.
And tickets are available throughout the entirety of Series 10. That
96.
includes Double Trouble 3, which takes place after week 6 of this particular series. Now,
96.
the finals night for that takes place on Saturday, March the 8th. Now, we're not going to reveal the lineup to you for another couple of weeks, but what I will tell you is if you're looking at finding a Saturday night to go and watch, knowing the lineup, that's the one to go and see.
Well, people do buy tickets
140.
for some sporting events, not knowing who's going to be there.
111.
I think it's a risk worth taking. Look how good that is.
On the first leg, Charlie Lark.
And Gary's probably thinking, nice shot, young man. Who is he again?
Second leg, it's Gary to throw first.
I'd be very surprised if Gary knew anything about Charlie Large, but I think he knows a little bit now. But if you're Charlie, think about it this way. You said he won a tournament in the last couple of days, beating Simon Whitlock in the final.
100.
And then a couple of days later, he's playing against Gary Mawson. This is not what usually happens to young men in darts.
95.
But maybe it does in 2025. This is how things have changed. We spoke earlier today about the progression of the youth system. These young men and women are playing against legendary, established players more regularly than ever before.
42.
And people wonder why young stars like Charlie are so ready. It's because bumping into Simon Whitlock and other Hampshire legends is just a weekly occurrence.
54.
So playing Gary Mawson on a Thursday night into Friday morning is probably, oh, okay. Whereas years ago, it would have been, what an opportunity.
It's just another game of darts.
Correct.
100.
There's no fear factor. And there shouldn't be a fear factor from Charlie. He's somebody who's played in a final at the Lakeside.
41.
Granted, he lost that final to Bradley, and granted, he was just 17 at the time. But to even be in that environment, to even play in a game like that, you have to have something about you. And he is showing a lot of those qualities tonight. Gary's going to play 2 of the last 3 games this
54.
evening. He could do with some kind of foothold in this match. And on throw here, he's given himself 6 darts from 205 to square this match up at 1-1.
40.
And Gary's using prototype darts tonight. He's been giving them a go for a little while. Everyone's been through that process of using
58.
prototypes. They might be the dart they're going to use moving forward, but they might not be. They might need a few tweaks. And in his career, he's always been a very neutral hitter.
125.
Dart going in very straight
Charlie require 152.
and neutral, and predominantly stacking over the top. And he's always used
6.
a very small
Gary
flight as
require
well.
40.
He was a pear-shaped guy for years. How's his double 10? Not good enough, and Charlie looks on now, hungry for a 2-0 lead.
No score. Charlie require
That'll be
92.
an aching frustration for Gary Mawson, that. Charlie looking at 92 to double his lead. But he came into tonight all smiles, Gary Mawson, but he may not be smiling for much longer. Another one of them. And that would have
56.
summed up the Americans'
Gary
night if
require
Large
40.
went real large with a double-double.
He really wanted that, didn't he? Back to 10s. And this time he
Gets
finds
on
the
the
mark
second leg, Gary
after the
Mawson.
scare. I just wonder if
Third
we
leg,
did
it's Charlie to throw first.
have
Game on.
let's say a North American week here, where everybody was from the USA and Canada. What kind of fun we'd have that week.
57.
Imagine if we invited Dawson Marshall here. We could actually have Mawson versus Awesome.
85.
Sounds like Mork and Mindy, doesn't it? You won't know what that's all about.
I've heard of it. My parents have told me about it.
Yeah, Mork
59.
calling Orson, come in Orson. What we would say is Gary saying Mawson calling awesome.
125.
That took a bit of thinking about.
Well, put it this way. If you had a North American week, you could have a meeting between Leonard Gates and John Norman Jr.
93.
By the way, Cockney rhyming slang. Do you know what being a bit Mork means?
Absolutely no idea.
It's Cockney rhyming
80.
slang for windy. Mork and Mindy, windy. So if it's a bit mork outside, it's blowing a gale.
Things you learn when you
57.
sat in a commentary box with Paul Nicholson at 12:10 on a Thursday night. Well, Friday morning, technically.
My ex-manager used to come out with lots of Cockney rhyming slang.
135.
I think my favourite one was the Cockney rhyming slang for
65.
half a lager and half a
Gary
lemonade.
requires 76.
It's Mahatma.
Fair enough. Here's Tops. What a guide that
Gates
was.
on the third
Because his
leg,
darts
Gary
just
Mawson.
nestle so nicely in the bed, it gave him a bit more room to manoeuvre. He
Fourth
finds the
leg,
Tops
it's
and he
Gary
finds
to throw
himself here,
first.
Gary Mawson,
Game on.
into a 2-1 lead.
Earlier today, we were talking about the name Gary, weren't we? There was an article written in the last month or two talking about how nobody is calling their child Gary anymore.
36.
We might not have any Garys by 2050. Although I'm pretty sure Gary Anderson's going to be alive in 25 years. But maybe that name is
57.
due for a comeback. Let's face it, there's a lot of Arthurs and Archies and a lot of the older women's names like Esther
100.
have been making a comeback. Maybe it's time for a few more Garys.
The only problem is they held the name of Esther to ransom when they brought that
96.
back.
Do you know what the most famous Gary is in the world? Now, the clue is in the question.
58.
What the most famous Gary is?
It's not Gary Baldy, is it?
No, it's a place. Gary, Indiana.
97.
That's where Michael Jackson grew up.
And as you can tell, we've diverted conversation because this hasn't quite been a thriller, has it?
83.
That was bad.
For some reason you think you're a smooth criminal.
Nico, are you okay? Are you okay? Are you okay, Nico? Well, that was okay for Charlie Large, wasn't it?
That was more than okay.
140.
This is a decent
Charlie
game.
requires 71.
Might be being played in the low 80s averages. But maybe for the first time tonight, there is a little bit of pressure on Charlie to perform. And that
Gates on the
is
fourth
wonderful.
leg, Charlie Large.
Really crisp. To get the throw back. And he looks like someone who
Fifth leg,
refuses
it's
to leave the
Charlie
live
to throw
lounge
first. Game on.
without the 2 points on offer right here.
One word for you. Maturity. And he is showing it in bucket loads, is Charlie Large
70.
tonight. Different scenarios, different situations. He is coming up with the goods by and large.
41.
And I think there was a time in the not too distant past where Charlie could get off to good starts in groups, but as soon as something goes wrong, he may shake his head in the
93.
eye of adversity. But I think this performance, where he hasn't played at his best, averaging 81, has found himself behind on occasions in this match, but he's showing real
59.
resilience, which sometimes you can only get the more you toe the hockey, the more you gain experience, the more that you mature as a player.
59.
If you win every game you play, you don't know what resilience is. You don't figure it out. You only learn to be resilient when you've been through bad times.
140.
What's the old saying? You don't lose, you learn.
You learn more when you lose than you do
59.
from winning. That's a fact. The definition of patience is not being a victim of your circumstances. We're getting all philosophical
70.
here, but it's so true. Something goes wrong, you step back and you think, okay, how do I learn from that? What's the right thing to do next?
So was that why I was called a loser at school? Because I was always revised, which meant I was learning.
60.
I'm not a shrink, Henry, and this is not the Fraser Crane show.
Large looking at 160, and he may have to take it out because Gary
159.
Mawson here,
Charlie require
that 159 is
106.
threatening the break of third, a 3-2 lead, and he is going to get a look at this double 16. Free in hand to move 3-2 to the
60.
goods.
Gary require 32.
That is a delicious marker.
No score.
He just couldn't quite click it.
Charlie require 100.
Did have a shot at 2 double 18s for a cracking double-double on 92 earlier. This might require double-double again. He knows it's a big shot. Up you go.
60.
But
Gary
that was-
require 32.
Trepidous following that first start, sinking low because it stood up to attention. You wouldn't have seen much of the top star, even though it deviated low. Double 16 for Mawson. Larges found himself poised on top, so this dart does not go. And it
Yeah,
does
shot
go.
of fifth leg,
And Mawson
Gary
moves
Mawson.
3-2 up. He's got the break and he has the darts in his hand to get his first win of the night. And for Charlie Large, who won his first two,
Sixth leg, it's
could
Gary
find
to throw
himself on the
first.
reverse of the card right
Game
at the
on.
end of it.
$100.
Do you think we could raise enough Garys to have a Gary week? Where every player is called Gary.
We got Gary Mawson, Gary Stone,
140.
Gary Robson.
Gary Blades.
$121.
Be a tricky one. I think we could just about do it though.
Well, Gary Neville would have to be in the commentary box
100.
with Gary Lineker presenting. Could have Gary off of Only Fools and Horses.
81.
Next thing you're going to be seeing Gary Mabbott.
Does Gareth count? So you could have
97.
No,
Gareth.
it doesn't.
You could have Gareth Bale,
It's a different name.
Gareth Cates. Let's move on. Let's move on.
Yeah, we should, because quite frankly, if you think Gareth is like Gary,
121.
then
Charlie
I'm going to start
require
calling you Hank.
164.
Another one. For the bullseye.
116.
Not quite.
Gary requires
And the
78.
mauler is on the cusp of victory to get himself into this group with a game to spare.
How his night could change. And how
38.
Charlie
Charlie
Large's night
require
could have changed
48.
because if that top sank, the man who'd been 2 for 2 in the wins column could have been 2 for 2 at the end of proceedings. Double-double.
Game shot on the
Perfectly
sixth
done.
leg,
It wasn't
Charlie
by
Large.
convention, wasn't by design, but it was executed perfectly. And for just the
Seventh and
second
final
time
leg,
tonight,
it's Charlie to
we go
throw
all the
first.
way to a last leg decider.
on.
The first one was in the first match. McDonagh beat Carl Sneyd 4-3. And now in the meeting between Large and Mawson, we head to the brink. And it is Large with the darts. If he wins this leg,
59.
then he moves on to 6 points in the group. If Gary wins this match, well, Charlie would have won his first two, lost his first two, and Gary Mawson had the opportunity to do the reverse of that, where he would have lost his first two matches, but could win his last two matches. And that is the precarious nature of Group B darts. Actually, there is a possibility if Lee Cox beats Carl Sneyd and Gary Mawson wins this match in the last game, everybody's on 4 points in the group.
You really were building up to something there, weren't you, Henry?
30.
This should be a max.
140.
And he was lifting that right shoulder on that third dart. And when that happens, you compensate and the dart is short. I just wonder if that dart at double top is really going to hurt Gary. The one chance he has of getting the points and repairing his leg difference a bit, it looks like
59.
things might be getting away from him.
And it looks as if he's run out of steam in this last leg. Charlie Large needed a 14 dart to the break in the last leg. He got that job, and now on throw,
100.
he's
Charlie
pitter-pattering to a
143.
proficient level, which has got him to this point. The point of victory, where he has 6 darts from 143 to move on to 6 points in the group.
$26.
Well, he definitely kept our spotter guessing there, didn't he?
You never know what could happen if he gets to 106.
140. Charlie
Game might be back on.
117.
If Charlie can't close this out, Mawson might have one more chance. But he has a match shot at tops, which he takes.
And the match, Charlie
What
Large.
could have been only 4 points has now turned into a very profitable 6. I think Charlie understands that that game was a clash of generations, and that was a privilege to play against the former UK Open champion. And after Gary missed a dart to win the match, 4 legs to 2, it's Charlie that wins the last 2 legs and takes 2 crucial points into his Friday campaign, as we've still got 2 games left. Next, Lee Cox has got to bounce back against the fancied Sneyd.
Are you ready to lift that trophy, Darius?
Yes.
Let's do it then. Ladies and gentlemen, your MODUS Super Series 9 champion is Lucky D, Darius Labanowski!
Well, what a wonderful night of darts we have seen, and we are ready. Our champion is ready, and it's trophy time. So receive the trophy. £25,000. The new MODUS Super Series champion, the Terminator, Marvin Van Velzen. And one more time, the 8th MODUS Super Series champion, the Terminator, Marvin Van Velzen. And the new MODUS Super Series champion is Andreas Dirty Harrison. And one more time, the 7th MODUS Super Series champion. Give it up for Andreas Dirty Harrison.
At the moment, we've all been appreciation for your Series 6 MODUS Super Series champion, Scott Taylor.
One more time, your new MODUS Super Series champion. He is Chucky. He is Jim McDonagh.
Ladies and gentlemen, your MODUS Super Series champion, retaining his title, the Luke Littler! Lights, camera, action. It's game 9 of our night here at the Live Lounge in Portsmouth. And before the break, Charlie Large got the better of Gary Mawson by 4 legs to 3, aided and abetted by a couple of Tub Plus checkouts. He is top of Group B with 6 points to his name. Rounding off their nights, Carl Sneyd and Lee Cox go toe-to-toe. And for Carl, if he wins this game, he will join Charlie on 6 points. But a victory here for Lee Cox would mean that the pair would be inseparable on 4 points. And it would
First
be
leg, it's Lee to throw
the
first.
Irishman Roman McDonagh
Game
in the
on.
final game of the night that had the chance to move on to 6 if he could get the better of Gary Mawson, who is still searching for that first win. But who here will finish their
55.
night on a high? And remember, before a dart was thrown in this group, these two were the bookmakers' favourites to win it.
100.
Sneyd wins. He's going to be top. If he wins by a certain margin.
100.
In fact, just recalculating, I make it any win
60.
and he will be top overnight. But I place more importance on this game for Lee. He could really use another
6.
victory. Because it has turned from him being the hunted to being the hunter in this group.
81.
Wasn't there a flag in the
68.
St. James's crowd somewhat 2 nights ago? Didn't it say get into them?
Indeed it did, yes.
Well, that was a message to
83.
the Newcastle United players. If you were going to have a flag for Lee right now, you'd say, get stuck in.
96.
If you're feeling a bit flat, find something. Dig deep. As it turns out, it's going to be Newcastle-Liverpool at Wembley. Guess who's going to be the underdog
99.
there?
Lee require 122.
Collymore closing in, but is Cox going to close in on the first leg? The bull. Not to be.
97. Carly requires 78.
Double top with clearance.
58.
He could
Lee
go right
requires
down the
25.
centre. Courtesy of that right-hand single. But Lee does get a chance, which he
Gets
takes.
on the
He
first
needed that.
leg, Lee Cox.
Needed a good start.
Second leg, it's
Psychologically,
Cox to throw first.
For what he's been through the last couple of days, everything he does has got to be positive. You have to stop yourself from shaking your head,
58.
even when it feels like it's something you naturally do. When you do something right like that, nod your head. That's all it takes. A positive movement.
77.
Just say yes in your own mind. And little statements like, I hope. You get rid of those
81.
and you keep saying, I will. Even something small. I will pick up that glass of water.
40.
I will feel good in this game. Just keep hammering the nail of confidence, one step at a time.
97.
We will be back tomorrow from 1 o'clock for the conclusion of Group C. We'll be with you all afternoon long for that on Pluto TV. Then we'll be back tomorrow night from 10 to see
140.
how Group B concludes.
Even then, Lee looked almost disappointed with a 140. 140 is a great score.
43.
Reinforce the positivity.
Well, put it this way. If I had a
60.
500 milliliter glass with 250 milliliters of liquid in it, at this present moment in time, I think Lee Cox would say that glass is half empty as opposed to half full.
57.
But if he can end this night on 4 points, he is banging the persuasion.
100.
Not bad. It may not be a vintage performance, but he's in with a chance of being 2-0 up.
133.
It was only a 25
We
checkout in the
require
first leg.
84.
This is a bit more complex. It does need a bullseye. But the positive thing, it was
59.
right on
Only
line.
require 32.
For parity, double 16. Is that close enough to be awkward? Yes, it is. And what can he see at double 8? Because his darts stand up, he has got no angle at all, but he
Shot on the
finds it
second leg,
beautifully to
Sneyd.
square this game up at 1 apiece.
Yeah, Carl's pretty
Third
tall.
leg, it's Lee to
He can
throw
see over the
first.
top, but
Game on.
I would gauge that maybe he couldn't see the bottom third of that double 8. So you do throw semi-blind. But these players are so
59.
adept at throwing at all of the targets that they can almost throw at double 8 with their eyes closed.
100.
Well, it's almost muscle memory, isn't it, in that particular situation?
It depends who you speak to. There are people who coach within this sport who don't believe in muscle memory.
100. 125.
I think the jury's out on the whole muscle memory thing.
83.
I think if you go through the same routines before a campaign like this each night, you should feel sharp. Some dart players wrap themselves in cotton wool,
96.
not literally, but they are very cautious. They don't do anything that could possibly cause them injury or discomfort. But then there are others who
59.
might go to the gym or do manual labour before they play. I used to ice skate a lot. When I started playing pro darts, I stopped.
100.
What's the point? You don't want to fall over and break a wrist or an elbow or anything like that. You have to sacrifice certain things to be a pro dart player.
140. Carly require 80.
This is for the break of throw, a 2-1 lead, and Lee is having a real chat with himself in the background. There may well be an awkwardness about this,
Game shot
but
on
he
the
finds
third
it in the
leg,
top
Sneyd.
left corner beautifully. He's had some obscure targets in this game, Carl Sneyd, but he's finding what he's needing,
Fourth leg, it's
and he
Carl
leads
to throw
2-1.
first. Game on.
At this stage, coming towards the end of night one, Sneyd, McDonagh and Large
125.
look like the more likely candidates to make Saturday. You remember that week?
41.
I think it might have been a Champions Week where Bradley Brooks didn't win Group A and then didn't make the Saturday.
The Bo Greaves one, wasn't it?
93.
That's correct. not getting through Group A and playing in Group B, it is tough. But just imagine,
84.
for a second, if you're in Lee's shoes, if you can get through Group B, you will feel stronger than if you won Group A.
If Chris Mason was
100.
sat in this seat right now, he would say that setbacks make forgetbacks. But the problem that Lee's had is he's been in this situation before where he's lost out tight in a Group A and he hasn't been able to then
7.
get out of the Group B situation. And it just feels like with Lee, for all the ability that he has, he just needs to find a way of sometimes turning that negative into a positive.
159.
But the problem is right now is Carl Sneyd is incrementally improving in this game, averaging about 90 and has left himself on a double after 12.
100. Carly required 24.
And you don't expect him to miss.
Game shot on the 4th flag. Carl Sneyd.
Even the one that missed looked good.
5th flag. It's Lee to throw first. Game on.
Honestly, Carl looks so energetic. After 12:30 in the morning, he looks like he could go again.
59.
I don't know if we're looking at this through different eyes because of what he's done and what he's won recently. But does he look a little bit like a different player compared to what we've seen in the past?
140.
Yeah, because there's an extra pace in the step. There's a little bit of extra lift in the walk. The conviction of the dart hitting the board, that is so different. He's always been a very firm thrower. But there is a rigidity to the action
100.
and a rhythm and repetitiveness that is got to be admired.
$56.
I love watching left-handers play. There have been some great ones over the years. But there aren't many on the PDC Pro Tour these days.
100.
Problem here for Cox is that his leg difference is already at -3. If he loses this leg, he goes to -6.
81. Carly require 161.
He'd only have 2 points. And there's a risk that 3 players could be 4 points ahead of him come tomorrow night.
65. $57.
Unable to
Carly
find a trouble
require
there, and so
96.
Sneyd looking at 96 to complete a 4-1 victory. Lee's head is in its hands, and there may be reason for it. But the double 4 means a diversion over to double 14. I don't think he'll mind this target. But he drifts on the inside. He
82.
presents
Lee
Cox with another
require
chance.
108.
Still on, but no longer.
84. Carly require
Earlier on
14.
in the night, we saw Charlie Lodge split this.
There's no split from Sneyd, but he has to split between the two. He's had a couple of impossible darts and a double in this
7.
match, but that was a step too
Lee
far.
required
He has a little bit of a
24.
grimace as he heads back to the board, but Cox is back to the board. Can he get himself back in the match? Double 6.
Those darts on the right side of the board keep veering.
Game shot on the
But that
5th
one keeps him
flag. Lee
alive.
Cox.
5 darts for the match missed by
6th
Carl.
flag. It's Carl to throw first. Game on.
It's a lifeline to Lee. How deep can he dig?
What's he got in the reserve?
140.
Well, here's the issue. Carl is so confident right now that even when he's missing darts for a match like that, you'll think, okay, I'm going to win anyway. That's what confidence does. It makes you believe that you can win in any situation. Let me give you an example of this.
100.
There was a time in my career where I thought that Ross Smith was never going to beat me. I kept beating him. And one game,
100.
he was 5-1 up on me. And I just turned around, I had a sip of water, and I said, he's not winning this game. I was so confident at the time, I thought,
100.
I'm going to win the next 5 legs. I just know it. And I did. As soon as I got to 5-4 down, I said, right, you're mine now. Won that match.
100.
And it's
Carly
about talking to
require
yourself in the right way.
161.
PMA.
PST. Positive
65.
self-talk.
Lee require
That's what
161.
sports psychologists talk about.
17 would have left the board. So now Carl Sneyd had a look at this 96 in the previous leg to win the match. He hit the chub with dart 1, but then diverted
Carly
into the
require
double 4
96.
when he was looking at double 18. Chub 19 for the double to win the match. Double 19. Lee Cox
58.
expected it to go, and it wasn't too
Lee
far away.
required 24.
That's now 6 match darts. To break. Double 6 again.
12.
That was
Charlie
such a big
required
opportunity
38.
to take us all the way.
And that could be the last opportunity. Carl Sneyd decides to split, went low, and so that is going to leave himself on double 14 for the match.
He wanted a 6 there.
Double 7, he's had some trouble here.
24.
And the troubles on that double continue, and that missed
Lee
double 7 is
required
match start
12.
missed number 7.
He's
Game
still
shot on the
alive.
6th leg, Lee Cox.
Now it's starting to feel like Tuesday. And when Lee was
7th
playing
and
on
final
Tuesday,
leg, it's
he
Lee
didn't
to
play
throw
very well,
first.
but he still kept
Game
the
on.
top spot all day long. One good leg right here could change everything for Lee Cox this week.
You feel like right now this is the biggest leg of his
140.
week because he kicks off with a 140.
Well, here's the difference. Sneyd either goes to 6 points
60.
or Lee goes to 4 with Sneyd. And then there's the possibility that Gary Mawson could take out McDonagh and keep him at 4 points. And then everybody's involved.
100.
The margin for error is less for Lee than it is for Carl. If he loses this match, well, he's on an even kilter for the night. If Lee loses this leg, then he finds himself on the back foot.
140.
Big 140 there. This final leg up in the offing. A lot depends on this next visit for Lee Cox.
6.
Such a level of urgency in this game.
Is this the moment Sneyd makes his move? Is that the moment he makes his move? That'll feel like a dagger for Lee Cox.
$60.
That 180 was hurtful.
21.
Impactful. And is that the power pack moment that changes this match? He's not going to go with the bull.
41.
Boy, does Lee Cox need a biggie
Lee
now.
require 141.
This isn't over. Is it now? That's not the worst start.
Carly require 8.
Sneyd has had 7 darts to win this match by various results. Has Lee Cox got any lives left?
We know there's an awkwardness, though, about this combination. Tops, and there's a lot of traffic. A lot of traffic in the way. He doesn't know whether to go left or whether to go right.
40.
And he drifts so far
Lee
wide
require 47.
to the left-hand side.
What would Martin McCutcheon say here? This is your moment, Lee. This is massive. Oh, no.
No score.
It was right on line.
Carly require 40.
He can't believe it, and perhaps as well, Carl Sneyd couldn't believe it. His darts are probably back in the case. He probably expected this game to be over. He's got 3 at a clean target, 3 at tops, double 10. With
Get
match
your
dart
undermatch,
number 10.
Sneyd.
And that will hurt Lee Cox. A big win for Carl Sneyd. 2 moves on to 6 points, and he's going to be top of the table overnight. As for Lee Cox, it's another disappointing night here at the Live Lounge in Portsmouth. He had an opportunity to win the match there. He couldn't take it. It was a good dart. It didn't go in. And that, the fine margins, a whip for a wire, the difference between the pair there. Sneyd 4, Cox 3. Coming up after the break, it's Gary Mawson and Rowan McDonagh to round the night off. Are you ready to lift that trophy, Darius?
Yes.
Let's do it then. Ladies and gentlemen, your MODUS Super Series 9 champion is Lucky D, Darius Labanowski!
Well, what a wonderful night of darts we have seen, and we are ready. Our champion is ready, and it's trophy. So receive the trophy. £25,000. The new MODUS Super Series champion, the Terminator, Marvin Van Velzen. And one more time, the 8th MODUS Super Series champion, the Terminator, Marvin Van Velzen. And the new MODUS Super Series champion is Andreas Dirty Harrison. And one more time, the 7th MODUS Super Series champion. Give it up for Andreas Dirty Harrison.
The moment we've all been waiting for. Would you please show your appreciation for your Series 6 MODUS Super Series champion, Scott Taylor.
One more time, your new MODUS Super Series champion. He is Chucky. He is Jim McEwen.
Ladies and gentlemen, your MODUS Super Series champion, retaining his title, the Nuke, Luke Littler! Game 25 of 25 on this Super Series Thursday at the Live Lounge in Portsmouth. And it sees Ronan McDonagh up against Gary Mawson to round off the campaign of Thursday here at the Live Lounge. It began all the way back at 1 o'clock this afternoon. Boy, does that feel a long time ago. When Jeremy Fagg evaded 4 match darts from Jamie Kelling to win for 3. It's going to be rounded off by a meeting of the Republic of Ireland and the United States of America. Incidentally, just having a look at my notes from this afternoon, we did our, well, you did your Premier League predictions.
134.
You got it right.
Yeah, Luke Humphries won.
We won't mention the rest of what happened, but yeah,
76.
Luke Humphries won.
That's what it's all about, getting the end product right.
Admittedly, he did get MVG to beat Littler, and boy, did he beat Littler earlier.
Yeah, the second biggest losing average in Premier League history for Littler, just under 114.
60.
And Mawson is rather awesome at the start of this one. He would love to leave with a victory.
61.
So close to one in his previous match against Charlie Large. Could have won 4-2. Ended up losing 4-3.
108. Gary, you require 126.
Bit of late night maximum hitting here.
Mawson looking for
50.
maximum impetus from the get-go. He's left himself on a 2-darter after just 12 darts. What can McDonagh do by way of response?
105.
Decent turn, heads down
Gary,
for the
you
25,
require
leaves himself on
76.
80. Mawson here looking at 76 to go 1-0 to the good. And he's going to get 2 darts in his hand, a double 14.
Game shot of
What a
first
guide
leg,
dart
Gary
1
Mawson.
was. And he used it brilliantly there with dart 2. Nestled in and 1 up.
Second leg, it's Ronan to throw first. Game on.
What a fabulous checkout that was. He hit that double 14 like it was 10-pin
59.
bowling with the guards up. He was never going to miss.
Well, first strike goes to Gary Mawson.
100.
Yeah, someone who Gary's played with for years in different types of darts.
100.
Big Scotty Kirchner. His son is a professional 10-pin bowler.
Was Scott Kirchner the famous guy with the phantom dart against Gary Anderson?
Yeah, that's the
121.
guy. Scotty's a great guy. Super friendly.
60.
Super good as well. Used to be one of the best soft tip players in the world. Gary knows a thing or two about soft tip play. He's
58.
played both versions of the game for many years. But there are many dart players
140.
who are really good at one version of the game but not as good at the other. There are plenty, though, of Gary's stature who are good at both. You look at Jeff Smith,
40.
John Part,
Ronan,
very
you
good at
require
both. Predominantly better
142.
at steel tip. Look at Chris Lim, son of Paul Lim. He's good at both.
110.
Oh, Paul Lim himself.
Yeah, he's amazing at everything he does.
100.
Well, this
Ronan, you
maybe not an
require
amazing
32.
leg, but it's a decent leg nonetheless for Ronan to level up at 1 apiece. And he
Game's
finds
on
the
the
double
second
16
leg,
with dart
Ronan
number
McDonagh.
17. And we are level at 1-1. Gary just talking to himself, just going through a
Third
couple
leg,
of
it's Gary to the road
practice
first.
motions in the
Game
background.
on.
Back when Gary made the final of the UK Open, he did lose to James Wade.
100.
It was at Bolton. And for the people who used to play there regularly,
60.
that is an atmosphere we miss. Because that was different. 8 games going on at the same time and people in the crowd looking in all sorts of different
45.
directions. You know how the PDC have recently brought back the World Masters with the help of Winmore?
100.
I'm not saying bring back the UK Open in that style, but bring back a tournament like that. That was amazing.
150.
Particularly when you're on the main stage and you hear about 20 people cheer from board 5 just in the middle of a random leg.
140.
Absolutely.
That's a bit like, you love your golf, don't you? That's a bit like the Ryder Cup. If you're Rory McIlroy and you're teeing off at the
45.
12th, but you've heard something happen at the 10th hole.
Yeah, that's a fair comparison.
Who's going to tee up the points in this
36.
particular contest? Ronan has left himself on a bogey. Paul Nicholson is flabbergasted next to me.
I'm just very close to completing my bogey number bingo card this week.
55.
Consisting of numbers like 169, 168,
58.
166,
Gary require
165, and
141.
beyond.
Well, the bogey bingo is the one that you not want to complete.
26. Ronan, you require
107 for McDonagh to get the break of He needs one at some point in this match. Is he going to get it here? Oh, he does brilliantly.
Third leg, Ronan
The
McDonagh.
107 gives Ronan McDonagh that much-needed break. He moves 2-1 to the good. And for Gary
Fourth leg, it's
Mawson,
Ronan
he
to the
can
road
only
first.
smile through the pain
Game on.
because that's been the story of his evening so far.
Think about it. And these are the little things that I love to talk about more than anything else in this
60.
sport. That final of the UK Open was 18 years ago. 18. How old was Ronan?
95.
He might have just started school.
Well, he's a year younger than me, as Ronan, so he would have been
6.
in 2008, he would have been in year 3 of school.
Year 3 at age 5.
It was 2008, wasn't it?
60.
2007.
Oh,
Wasn't it? 2008, you're right. It is 2008. 17 years ago.
42.
But 18 years ago, he's 5 years of age. He's 23, right?
yes.
He's barely at school and Gary's in a major final.
140.
As a kid, he doesn't even know who Gary Mawson is. 18 years later, he's playing him on the Super Series stage. It's amazing how things change.
87.
Now, Gary Mawson has been hit with some haymakers tonight. That is the 4th Ton Plus checkout that he's had hit against him.
95.
In a strange way, it is a compliment. Because at some point tomorrow on a phone call, Ronan's going to say,
140.
oh, by the way, did you see my 107 against Gary Mawson? It was rather
require
good.
111.
The Nelson shot. No longer on. That would have cost an arm and a leg.
75. Ronan, you require 112.
One up from that. But this will put him into a 3-1 lead. Double top.
Game shot.
Back-to-back Ton
Ronan
Plus
McDonagh.
checkouts. Ronan McDonagh is hitting Gary Mawson where it hurts.
5th leg. It's Gary to throw first.
I'm not sure what Gary's thinking right
Game on.
now, whether it's broadcastable or not, but it's something along the lines of hot diggity.
$140.
He's been impressive tonight. And he's looked more comfortable in this group than any time in Group A.
I think the biggest compliment you can pay
85.
him is you wouldn't think on the basis of seeing him for the first time tonight that he's a debutant.
140.
Yeah, that's fair. He looks established.
That's exactly the word that I was thinking of. He looks like someone that's been here a few times. He
140.
knows this place inside out. And he's only been here for 4 days.
57. Gary, you require 136.
Gary's been getting better all night long. All of his averages are getting better each game he plays.
45.
But it feels like his opponents know that and they've been lifting it.
60. Gary, you require 91.
91 to extend this match furthermore. He's not going to find it.
Well, surely
71.
Ronan hasn't got this in the locker to finish the night
Ronan,
off.
you require 144.
That was a stretch too far.
82.
But if Mawson doesn't
Gary,
find
you
this, then
require 20.
the match could be a stretch too far for him. Double 10 to keep us ticking, to keep us going. Getting closer. But he cannot
10.
find a way in. And McDonagh
Ronan,
has
you
a chance to
require
win.
62.
62 points away from a 4-1 success. He's going to get a match start, a double 16.
46.
And he cannot take the
Gary, you
chance.
require 10.
Somewhat curious. You went for 20 double 16 there instead of leaving tops again.
Game shot
Pinpoint
fifth
stuff from
leg,
Gary.
Gary Mawson.
I really want Mawson to leave a 1-3-2 checkout.
Sixth
Because then I
leg,
can use
it's
this
Ronan
line.
to throw first.
Cork calling Mawson, come in Mawson.
40.
And what you haven't just seen live on Pluto TV is that joke going so far over Henry Deacon's head that it might as well be the International Space Station.
45.
That one's for all the grandparents out there. And it is late. And if you've been driving a truck all
94.
night and you're having a break, it's a very good night to all you truckers out there.
Any other requests whilst you're here? It's like
42.
Radio 2 with Tony Blackburn.
No, it's called Radio Quiet. That's part of that joke I've just made.
100.
It's a Harry Enfield thing from years ago. This is usually the time of night back in the States where they have things like Jimmy Fallon on. Or Craig
76.
Ferguson. In the UK, we do late night darts. Isn't that right, everybody?
59.
And of course, you're watching the United States. Happy evening to you, because I suppose it'd be just past dinner time out there. But Roman McDonagh is hoping to round off the night in his campaign for the evening here.
Ronan, you
6
require
darts
167.
for 167 to complete a 4-2 victory. Doesn't have to go for it. We'll never know whether he'll go for the ball. But what he has done
139.
is he's left himself on a double to win it.
And his doubles have been really good. 3 out of 5. Couple of ton toppers.
140. Ronan, you
And
require
only one more thing to do.
28.
And that is to see the job through. And he does
Good
so
shot.
on
And the
double
match,
14.
Ronan McDonagh.
And for Ronan McDonagh, a 4-2 victory against Gary Mawson means that he's going to end the night on 6 points. 3 players will end the night on 6 points. Lee Cox finds himself on 2. But for Gary Mawson, for whom it's been great to see him here this evening, but he ends the night without a point to his name. Ronan McDonagh, a step closer towards Saturday night, and I can tell you now, as he walks back down the stage and he heads off stage right, just off your picture, but just in front of our window here in the gantry, he is very emotional about that win. He's beaten Gary Mawson by 4 legs to 2, and he's 1 step closer now towards Saturday night's final, which is going to be in front of a bumper crowd, and if you want to be a part of it, take a look at this. Welcome back to the MODUS Super Series, where this is what we've seen on Thursday night here at the Live Lounge in Portsmouth. And it was dominated by 3 players. Charlie Large, Ronan McDonagh and Carl Sneyd, all on 6 points following the first day's play in this group. That's what we have seen in terms of the league table. We can confirm the top 3 all on 6 points for Lee Cox and Gary Mawson. They've got it all to do on Friday night if they are to progress through to Saturday evening's final. Well, we've been watching all of the action on this Thursday night in the company of the asset Paul Nicholson. 3 players all tied on 6 points, but in terms of the stylish stuff, Carl Sneyd was the one that provided all of the goods.
Yeah, I think a lot of conviction from Carl tonight. He'll be very pleased with his night's work, but I think one of the biggest things for him tonight was that he came in here with reputation and form. He didn't steamroll everybody. He was still able to find wins in a different way. He can find 111 average after 3 or 4 legs of a contest and still got the job done. But even when you're confident and winning matches, you still need to be able to dig deep at times. And he was able to do that tonight because it wasn't as dominant as it could have been. So people caused him problems, and Lee Cox caused him all sorts of problems in his last match, but he was still able to get those 3 wins from 4, which put him in a very commanding position.
So Carl Sneyd, top of the table, on 6 points at the top of the table overnight. He has got company alongside him. Let's talk about Charlie Large, because he got the late call up to play this week at the Live Lounge. We were wondering where his form was at. He beat Simon Whitlock in a local competition last night, and he's taken that kind of confidence into this evening's play.
From the first start tonight, he looked comfortable. And an early maximum settled him down, and he looked so ready for this. And this is what you get from young players. If they've had experience here and they come back, they know what to do to make sure that they're ready for their first challenge. So Charlie's obviously done the right work over the last few days to make sure that he was ready from the whistle, and he was.
In terms of Ronan McDonagh, we were mentioning tonight that he didn't look like a debutant out there. He looked at home, as if the 3 days experience in Group A done in the world of good, and maybe the time slot as well for this Group B session may have helped him as well.
I go back to what I said earlier. First game, Group A, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, he didn't play well at all. I know he won his first game on Monday, but he didn't play great. He was in the mid-70s range with the average. But Tuesday and Wednesday, he didn't play well at all. So I wanted to see him in his first game tonight, and he looked like a person who was playing his second or third game on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, where he was a lot better. So I'm convinced that a nighttime slot suits him far better than the morning.
In terms of Gary Mawson, it was a slow start to the night, but there was signs maybe as the evening went along that he was getting better, but the fact he's on no points and there's 3 plays on 6 makes tomorrow hard work for him. Yeah,
it does. Even if he wins 4 out of 4 tomorrow, you've got 3 players already on 6, and 2 of those guys are going to get onto 10 points, aren't they? It's a really big uphill battle for Gary. The strange thing is, he didn't start the night particularly well, but he did improve in every match he played. But people were doing that with him, and they were almost targeting Gary Mawson as if to say, you're the statement win tonight. I might only get my chance tonight and tomorrow to play as someone of your stature and standing in the game. And you mentioned it. When Ronan McDonagh left the stage after game 10 tonight, he showed some emotion, because taking a scalp like Mawson still means something.
It most definitely does. Well, Paul, thank you so much for your company. Time to get some shut-eye, and very quickly, very exciting double day tomorrow.
Yeah, I think Group C is going to be really interesting. There's still a lot of people in the mix. And as far as Group B is concerned, a lot of work for Lee Cox to do and Gary Mawson. And I have to say at this stage, I think the top 3 will probably progress.
Right, see you first thing in the morning. Sleep well. Hopefully you sleep well as well, and we shall see you first thing in the morning as well. 1 o'clock, we're going to resume our coverage on Pluto TV for the conclusion of Group C. It's Sam Spivey that leads the way there. Then later on at 10 o'clock, we will see Group B come to a close here at the Live Lounge in Portsmouth, where we have 3 players all tied on 6 points, gunning for glory. But as far as tonight is concerned, we have a three-way split at the top. But don't forget, it's 24-hour darts here on Pluto TV. And coming up after the break is On the Oche with Damon Heta. From all of us here, thank you for watching. Bye for now.
What a finish! What a man! The drum roll finishes, and the target is...